You're listening to the Nature's Image Farm podcast. I'm your host, Greg Burns, and we're talking bees, homesteading, and the old-time ways. This episode is brought to you by EnduraHive wax-dipped equipment. No paint, no rot, no hassle. EnduraHive. Built to endure. Now, on to the show. Well, hey guys, welcome back to another Stream Team Beekeeping Chat on such a monumental day. We could spend all night long talking about those things, but I don't think a lot of folks got a lot of sleep last night. So if you're tuning in to talk about bees, God bless you. We appreciate you being here. What an outstanding time that we live in right now. And there's so many things going on, but I just want everyone to know how much we appreciate you guys tuning in, hanging out with us here, talking about bees, your support, and most importantly, your fellowship. We've talked about this a lot, that just the way so many things are going in this world, it is such a blessing to be surrounded, to be grouped up with so many incredible folks who are out there making a difference, literally being the change that they want to see in this world and being a lighthouse to this world. That is so important. We'll probably get into that a little bit tonight. Tonight's show is all about winter strategy. I know a lot of folks, when they're looking at beekeeping videos, are trying to figure out the tips and the tricks. What do I do? How do I do it? Do I do this? Do I do that? I saw this person doing this, so I should copy that, or I should do this, without understanding necessarily the why to do those things. And that can be a real challenge. If you are in the state of Ohio and you are looking to a Nevada beekeeper for overwintering strategy, you might be setting yourself up for failure. So tonight's show is all about checking in with beekeepers all across the USA to learn their strategy on beekeeping. Now, we dialed it up a notch because here's what's really cool about tonight's show. The beekeepers that we have on tonight's show also have YouTube channels. So what does that mean for you, the listener? When you're listening to where these folks are located throughout the country, subscribe, like, hit their channels up, and then consume that content that may be closer to your neck of the woods. Obviously, the stream team here, Bruce, Brian, and myself, we're coming at you from Ohio, the state of Alabama. A lot of the things that we talk about do absolutely transfer to beekeeping practice where you're at, but there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of methods, a lot of things that may not be for you, and we're clear, we talk about that. So I thought it was really neat to bring in folks from all across the country, learn what is their overwintering strategy, and then you can follow their channels now through the spring and through the entire year. So that's our goal tonight. Bruce, Brian, great to see you guys again. You guys look a little tired like the rest of us. Brian, did you get much sleep last night?
Probably about 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah. Exciting times. Bruce, what about you?
Yeah, I got to bed about 1:30 Central Time, and I had to be up supposedly about 5:30, but I slept a little longer than that. So
yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of exciting things going on. We'll get into that right now. Let's talk about bees. Guys, it's that time of year where it is literally do or die. We've talked about it before. There's nothing that you're going to do right now to make up for what you haven't already done as far as health and feed and things like that. In many parts of the country, it's getting too cold to put on liquid feed. It's way too late to be putting on your initial mite treatments. But there are a lot of things that we can do now to buffer the effects of the winter and how it may affect our honeybees. And so we're going to get right into it. So tonight, I think we're going to start, let's maybe start in some of the coolest parts of the country, who they're probably already seeing much colder temperatures than a lot of folks. As we bring every guest on, they're going to tell you who they are. They're going to tell you what state that they're beekeeping in. They're going to mention their YouTube channel, and then they're going to get into kind of their top strategy, the things that make the biggest difference for them for overwintering success. Bruce, Brian, anything else you guys would like to add before we get started?
Let's dive in, man.
Can I just say one thing?
You can say two things, or you can say one thing twice. You get to pick.
I want this stream here tonight to be today, because today, forget all that. So no more of that stuff.
Brian, you are no longer unburdened by the things that burdened you in the past.
Let's just get this show
Today,
going.
tomorrow's yesterday. Let's just be thankful for that, okay? Well, our first guest, wow, just a super cool couple. We have been blessed to be able to meet folks from all over the country, even spend time with them, visit their state, speak at their conferences, and it's so neat to be able to meet folks in person, but also bring them here on to the stream. Let's go ahead and bring on our first guest. We got Mike and Laurie Lawrence from Hamburg Honey. Guys, welcome to the stream team.
What did you do?
There you are.
Hey, guys. So we're from Central Wisconsin. How's it going, Brian? Bruce? We're in Central Wisconsin, and we get a lot of Arctic temperatures here, so we can dip down below zeros in Central Wisconsin. We have about 70 hives right now because we combined a bunch of them. Last winter, we went in with 35. So it's a lot of prep for us. Our YouTube channel is Hamburg Honey, like Hamburg, Germany. But because we live in Hamburg, Wisconsin, that's in Central Wisconsin, the heart. And
right now the temperatures have been a little bit warmer than normal.
In the 40s.
It's still 40, 45 every single day, and then it dips, we get frost every night. So it's not as cold as a lot of years, just like a lot of people in the country. So the way we overwinter our hives, we actually overwinter almost everything in single boxes. Okay. Now there is a caveat to that. We do have some poly hives that are 6/6, and then we also have some regular 5-frame nukes that are 5/5. You can see some of those there that we have at another apiary. Now we do have some wind blocks set up to block the north and the west wind. Those are the most important ones. Kind of in the center there where that wreath is, those are some 5/5s that we have insulation around. So normally when we started beekeeping probably 14 years ago, we did it the same way everybody else did. It was 2 double 10-frame boxes, and we'd set them up and just let them go over the winter. We had a upper entrance so they could vent out some of that humidity and moisture. But after buying some of those poly hives, we set those up, and there's only 12 frames. When you have a 6/6, there's 12 frames, and there's no upper entrance. There's just a tiny entrance on the front. And we have, in the 5 years that we have had those poly hives, we have never lost a hive over the winter in those hives. They stay so much warmer in the poly hives than they do a wooden hive, that they just don't consume nearly as much honey. It's just better for them overall. Etienne Tardif and a couple other guys, they did some studies that showed when it hit about 20 degrees, double stacked hive, 10/10, is going to consume about 3 pounds of honey per week. The bad part of that is for every pound of honey that the bees actually eat, they're going to perspirate about a cup of water. So generally, in those cold weeks, you're going to have 3 cups of moisture in that hive every single week. That's why so many people started going with top entrances to try to help get rid of that. But once I started using some of those poly hives, I was able to do away with that, because in the same study that it showed where they consumed about 3 pounds of honey a week when it got 20 degrees, in those insulated hives, they consume less than half a pound of honey per week. That's how we can overwinter in a straight 10-frame box. All we have to do is put some good insulation on that hive. So what you have to actually look for is we put 2 inches of insulation on the top across the hives. Of course, not these poly hives. These are set up so that once they're pushed together, we don't have to touch them till spring. So the other hives, we put 2 inches of insulation across the top, and we generally have some space in there with a shim so we can put in some candy boards or some Hive Alive patties, the fondant patties. And we have great success going through winter with that setup. They really don't use nearly as much honey. Yeah, this is our 2. We made a bunch of pallets that hold 2 hives. So to help keep each other warm, we just put a little shim on there. We put 2 inches of insulation on top and 1 inch around all of the sides. And they go through winter great this way.
It's really been a learning curve because we actually started wrapping our hives with tar paper, roofing paper, and we found it's so much of a waste of time. It doesn't really keep them warmer. Bugs get in there, mice get in there. This has been more successful for us. It's always a learning curve with beekeeping. There's always something to learn, mistakes you make.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. I think a lot of us have find little successes in a lot of those things that you guys just share. I think that's a neat combination of putting some hives together, using insulation, and then putting the feed on there. It's kind of hard for a lot of folks to wrap their brain around. You know, sometimes the colder you get, the smaller of the hive tends sometimes to do better than stacking these doubles, triples, or quadruples up that just really kind of struggle through there. Guys, what was one of the hardest lessons learned that you guys have kind of gotten past and broke through when it comes to overwintering your colonies in Wisconsin?
I would say probably wrapping the hives in tar paper. That was something that was kind of ingrained. That was something I was going to do until I got about 10 of those poly hives. And the way I had set it up is I had 10 or 12 wooden hives that were just wrapped with tar paper. And then right next to it, I had 10 poly hives. So on the days where it would get sunny, but not really warm enough, 25 degrees or so, it was sunny. That tar paper and that black would absorb some heat, and it would cause bees to fly on cleansing flights out of those wooden hives. So after it would snow, I would look out and there would be, a few hundred dead bees spread out in front of the wooden hives and no dead bees in front of the poly hives. So at first, initially, I thought, well, all these hives are dead. There's no bees coming out, going on cleansing flights. But I could open those poly hives at 20, 25 degrees, and those bees weren't clustered. They were just walking around. There's enough warmth in there, and they're insulated well enough that they don't cluster up quite as much as in the wooden hive that was just had tar paper on it. So I started adjusting my hives so that I started putting 2 inches of insulation on the top. That helped quite a bit. Then I moved to putting insulation around the sides of it too, and that just increased our overall wintering every single year. So last year we had 97% success overwintering, but last year was kind of the wimpiest winter we've ever had. So, so normally, we're at that 80, 85%, so it is a steep learning curve, but once you have a few things down and know what you're looking for, it gets a little easier.
And the tar paper made it harder for us to be able to get into the hives on warmer days if we needed to as well.
Yeah. Those are great tips, and a lot of folks kind of tend to walk right past that. And to be fair, and this is a great point to kind of bring us up before we get much further with our guests, is we want to be really clear that everybody wants to see their bees make it through the wintertime and come out of the spring. That is all. That is everyone's goal. So let's just be really clear about that. But what we're going to find by talking through a lot of these things tonight is everyone's going to have a little different way of doing that based on the feedback they received with the method that they chose. And sometimes even the method we choose, if it fails or even succeeds, may not be because of the method that we used. It might be because of a lot of other underlying factors, like having a cute puppy on your lap that just absolutely.
This is Nugget.
Brian, my friend, wants to join just like your doggy does.
Oh,
sometimes.
look at that. No, Brian's Eli is gonna get the message there too.
Yep.
Yeah. So we just want to say, hey, if any of us talk about stuff that we say that absolutely doesn't work and it works for you, hey, don't get your feelings hurt. No one's out for blood. No one's looking for an absolutist award, because there really isn't going to be any. But I really appreciate when folks like Mike and Laurie can share something that they did, that they felt like they were killing their bees. They stopped doing it, and then the bees started living. That's a big deal, and that's something to take notice. Mike and Laurie have a unique opportunity because Brian, Bruce, and I got to travel to Wisconsin last year. See if I can butcher it. Wausau.
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 I can never get it. Wausau, like wasabi. Okay. We traveled up there for the Beek Meet 2024. There's so many great speakers and vendors. It was an absolute honor to be up there speaking and being part of that community. Mike and Laurie are in touch with the latest and greatest innovations and information when it comes to beekeeping, especially in the Wisconsin area. You get up into that neck of the woods, beekeeping is a little different, folks. Beekeeping in Wisconsin is a little different than beekeeping in Tennessee or Kentucky. And Mike and Laurie have done a great job with putting together, in my opinion, one of the absolute best beekeeping conferences in that neck of the woods. I want to encourage you guys to go to CWBs and check out that conference, January 20th. Let's see if I can, and if Brian can pull that up. He's a little bit faster than I am. CWBs.com. There's going to be some great speakers. We've got Ian Steppler will be there and speaking. Fred Dunn, Susie, and I will be talking about kind of the hard lessons learned as a couple with beekeeping as a business. We're going to be talking about that. Bruce and Brian will be presenting. The stream team will be there as a trio for a presentation, and David Burns will be there. Mike and Laurie will be there. I know there are some other folks that I know I'm leaving out unintentionally. Go to the website, cwbs.com, and register. I believe it's January 25th.
Right.
And it's going to be a lot of fun. So definitely check that out. I don't know if I can, let's see if I can try to.
Breakfast and lunch is included. And afterwards, we are going to try to get Bruce and Brian and Greg out on the ice to do some ice fishing. We'll see how it goes.
Look at that. That's great.
And Susie.
Right.
Yeah. Yep. Well, hey, Mike and Laurie, you guys are awesome. Thanks so much for not only what you do to really bring the latest and greatest information to beekeepers in Wisconsin. Thanks for being friends of all of ours, for what you do for the beekeeping community. And thanks for sharing your tips tonight here as we travel across the USA learning wintering strategy. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
Take care.
Now, guys, make sure you go check out the description here in the video. And every guest that we have on tonight, there's a direct link to their YouTube channel and the state that they're in. Bruce, what do you think if you had to start beekeeping up in Wisconsin or somewhere cold? Would you have to learn a bunch of new things, do you think?
Oh, yeah. Well, she mentioned a learning curve, or they did, and I'm still trying to learn how to do it here. So if I move to an entirely new area, maybe I'd be better at it up there. I don't know, because I struggle down here. So I think there's a learning curve, even with the commercial guys. I'm sure they're still learning stuff all the time. I watched a video today. Auburn University is doing a study over in, where is it, Thailand or wherever it is, where the new mites are coming in, and they're doing a little series on that. They're doing some studies over there, and there's always something to learn and to adapt. I hope those things don't make it over here, but it was pretty interesting. About a 5-minute video introducing what they're doing, and it was always something, whether it be the weather, just so it would be a huge learning curve. But I think that the longer you do bees, the more you understand some of the basic principles, and so it's a matter of adapting those principles to the conditions which you're to what you're trying to do with your goals. And so it would be a learning curve, but what I would do is I would find people in that local area that have success and try to imitate as best I could what they're doing until I kind of figure out my own system and how to do it.
What do you think, Brian? How does beekeeping in Wisconsin? You can go right from the bee yard right out to the fish hut, just right there on the ice. I mean,
they can have it though.
No?
Honestly, they can have the cold.
Man, I tell you, some of those fish huts, man, those ice huts are nice. So you get inside of there. A lot of times, you might even have radio. You might have some lights. It might be warmer than you think in there.
Oh,
even,
sure.
maybe a camp lunch inside of there.
When our winters were a little worse up here, I mean, this has been, I would say right around 30 or so years ago. We used to go middle of the winter and drive cars out on lakes and stuff. So, now I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't trust it with our winters here. They've been too mild.
We don't. Yeah, we talked about that on the last stream. That's another reason why I wanted to get folks on and talk about their winter strategy now, because winter strategy is going to look, I think, very different for a lot of folks this year. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun to kind of dig in there. Well, hey, let's go ahead and we're up in Wisconsin. Let's head a little south and let's go down to the great state of Missouri. Let's see if we can get on Tom and Melissa. Hey, guys, how's it going?
Hey, everybody.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Thanks for joining us tonight. For folks who don't know, Tom and Melissa of Via Honeybees, tell us about you guys, what state you're in, and about your YouTube channel.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks, guys. Appreciate you guys having us on this evening. Bruce, Brian, and Greg. I know everybody enjoys your guys' stream team lives, and we try to join in every week to kind of see what's going on there. So first of all, like Greg said, Melissa and I are actually from the St. Louis area here in Missouri, kind of on the eastern side of the state. And I think our winter looks a little bit different than what it does in Wisconsin. So I feel like you're going to see some varying strategies from north to south and the way what that looks like for everybody with their beekeeping operation too. So when I seen that come through and you had put on their tips and tricks, Melissa was asking me, she said, what do you think? And I said, well, I don't know if I have one tip or one trick per se, because here in Missouri, we kind of get the best and the worst of everything. We're kind of in that transition area where we can be extremely warm in the winter, but we can also have some of those flip-flop temperatures, which I think kind of have their own
challenges.
Yeah, their own challenges, when it comes to beekeeping, right? So, but by and large, I would say we're at a pretty good position as far as we do get a winter, but it's not as cold as what the, upper northern guys are experiencing. So for us anyway,
I think our biggest thing is making sure that there's enough feed on the bees because of those flip-flop temperatures.
Right. But, really, our season kind of starts there, right? Much like most people, when it comes to winterization, it isn't just a last-minute ditch effort. Hey, what are we thinking about? It's starting to get cold. This is a preparation and a strategy and a management plan that takes place really from, for us anyway, late July. At that point in time, after we do get our honey off, we're starting to do some type of mite checks and see what kind of mite loads we have on our colonies. And at that point in time, we immediately start to do clean up any mites right there at that point in time to get these mites knocked down so we can get these bees healthy. If there's some smaller minor issues, if we have queen problems, we rectify those very, very quickly. And we do that with nucleus colonies that we build, and we plug right into these if we have failing queens or one that goes absent. At those stressful times of the summer, we get those colonies queen right. We get them cleaned up from mites and make sure that they're healthy. And at that point in time, we'll start to feed from there based upon what our season looks like, and prepare them for winter at that point in time. I'm kind of a big proponent of starting to feed a little bit earlier and build that up a little bit at a 1-to-1 rate, or sometimes even right after we finish our treatments, which we're using we're using Apogard, and we all know that has a tendency to kind of shut those queens down a little bit. So we may stimulate them a little bit with some 3/4 to 1, and then continue to feed it 1 to 1 on weekly or biweekly intervals to kind of slowly build them up, purge any issues that they might have through some good nutrition, and then work on building up their stores for the winter. Predominantly, Melissa and I overwinter in double deep boxes as we kind of manage in that. But we'll also start to kind of bring those boxes back down if those colonies are shrinking a little bit. And we may then push them down into that single box and manage them there. So we don't have to have as much room for the bees to patrol on the hive beetles and other pests and things like that we can kind of experience here in Missouri. So, from there, again, we're just kind of trying to feed, build up these colonies and make sure that everything looks really healthy inside there. We've got some great milk brood going on. They're starting to develop that winter nest. That's really our primary goal and what we do just kind of set up for winter. You got anything to add?
Well, and then usually about the time we come back from Nobby, we're always sure to put on some sort of emergency feed, whether it's the Hive Alive fondant patties or we make our own candy boards. We put that on there usually sometime at the beginning of January, just to make it through that early spring when we do start getting those flip-flop temperatures where we get a stretch of really warm days and then we go right back into a cold snap. That way there is that food, they may not all need it, but it's there, in case they do. I feel like that's the time of year right there at the end of February, beginning of March, where a lot of people around here anyway lose their bees. They get all excited because like, yes, we made it through winter. And then 2 weeks later, they have nothing because their bees starved out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of wisdom. I think a lot of us who are on the, let's say, Route 70 beekeepers, even going out west from you guys all the way down through, even in us, we have a lot of the same up and down temperatures. And I think that there's a lot of wisdom in understanding why do the bees survive and what is the things that are preventing them to make it through the wintertime. And I think you already hit on that. Is keeping the viral loads down, make sure the mites as much as possible is out of the equation, that we're building them up starting in July. So we're not trying to play a game of catch up that we can never win, right sizing them into the size of colonies that make the most amount of sense for your style of bees, the build of your bees themselves, the area that they're in, the temperatures that they see. And would you guys say that by and large, that is your overwintering components or those things? I don't know that you guys are you guys in 8-frame equipment or 10-frame equipment?
8
8-frame equipment. Yeah,
we overwinter some nukes too.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. Mostly 8.
So not a lot of wrapping, not a lot of insulation, not this. You're taking care of the fundamental things. And would you guys say that the bees are a lot more rugged than a lot of folks would tend to believe if you keep them healthy?
I do believe that, honestly. I think that some of our greatest issues we deal with are the viruses that start to become more prevalent when the nutrition starts to drop off. And for everybody, that might look a little bit different. For us, as the nutrition starts to drop off and we come into those dirt periods, for us, it's probably late June into July where things really start to slow down and shut down. And sometimes by then, you can't have colonies that have already had plenty of brood cycles. And we all know that the more brood cycles and the bigger the colonies are, it is likely to say that you can have a mite load that has been increasing as such, right? So we don't usually try to do much of any strategy once we put supers on as far as treating for mites, but immediately we've learned that when we pull those, we don't hesitate, we don't stall, we immediately go straight to an IPM and start working through doing checks. And we can't check every single colony. We had a max of about 175 this year. And it's unrealistic for me to say that I would have time to do to might check every one. So we kind of go through highs and lows. If it looks like a colony is excessively big or even small, I start hitting those, because what I'm doing is I'm looking for ones that I think could potentially have a problem. I want to see the worst of the worst. So, and then straight from there, we go into Apogard, which is our preferred mite treatment, even though I did have a couple of issues with some nukes this year, and I'm going to adjust my strategy on that here moving forward. It's always those hard lessons that hit that always stick in our minds, especially for us guys in here. You know, we're a little bit slow in the learning curve sometimes, right? And it has to hurt a little bit for us really to understand it. At least me, and I'll be the first guy to admit it. You know, if it hurts a little bit, I'll remember it. And I know Melissa's probably itching to say something and really hammer down. I mean, that's something.
Oh, I'm sure.
You know.
I'm sure.
I'm sitting here thinking, whose idea was this to put Greg and Tom on the same live stream
That's
at the same
perfect.
time? Like, it's like long story long all night long between the two of them.
The details are always the best, folks. I mean,
They absolutely
it's not
are.
arguable. It's not arguable there.
Well, Tom and Melissa, we're gonna have to have you back on where we can have just an entire episode of short story longs.
That's right.
Because you know to say the devil's in the details is just a gross understatement. Because all the little things, down to deeps, mediums, how many frames per box, what is the wind direction, what's the temperature swings, what style of bee, what were your viral loads up to that, all these things matter, and so Tom and I are cut from the same cloth as we want everybody to know all the things that we did wrong so they don't make those mistakes. And so to try to paint the portrait, set the tone, set the whole thing up. It's we both do the same thing. I really appreciate that about you guys. If folks want to find out more all about Missouri beekeeping, where can they find you? Where can they find you guys?
So I have two things, if you don't mind. You can find us on our YouTube channel on Via Honeybees or on Facebook at Via Honeybees. But we are also very active at the Eastern Missouri Beekeepers Association, so the EMBA, and they have a wonderful workshop coming up in February. So if you look up the Eastern Missouri Beekeepers Association, you can find out about their workshop.
Nice. Yeah, we had I know Susan and I had a lot of fun visiting with you guys, speaking there last year. So we'll drop a link in the description here in the video. So folks, if you're in that area, you want to check out some great education and get with Tom for all of the short story longs that you could possibly want.
I'll try to keep them on a leash.
It's not possible.
Well, hey guys, really appreciate what you guys do. If you want to also kind of geek out on more live chats, make sure you go over to Horizontal Bees YouTube channel. Our buddy Ricky Rorick there. Tom and Melissa are regulars there with Ricky. And what night of the week is that on, Tom?
Thursday nights.
Thursday nights. There it is. Tom and Melissa, thanks for joining us tonight and sharing your overwinter tips and tricks. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Thanks
you guys.
for having us.
Have a good night, everybody.
Night.
You know, one of the things I hate about doing this, Bruce and Brian, is you just want to sit and visit for like 2 hours with every single person. It's so easy to do that. Would you guys say that Missouri beekeeping is not too awful different from kind of like the baseline approach that you think we mostly take?
Similar.
Sounds like it. Yeah. They do probably get colder up there than we do here, but yeah, probably.
I love. Did you see when they were on? Tom was sitting there talking, and did you see Melissa when he was talking?
Are you going to throw Tom under the bus? Nobody saw Melissa looking over him and look at him. That
right like
what'd you say? Nobody saw that.
Is he going to slip up?
Okay, I agree with that. She was just waiting. Okay. She was waiting to catch him. Just waiting to catch him. That's Susie. We had Bible study was going to probably be a little bit later. By the time she got there and got back, she was going to be in here joining with me tonight too. But you know, guys, it's the great thing of having our wives with us, right? Because we need to be held accountable, and you know, sometimes it's great just to know that you've got that support mechanism there. And then sometimes they make you sweat because you're making sure, okay, I got to stay on point. Got to stay, I keep moving. I got to, you know, can't linger too long in these stories. So, but that's great. So we started off in Wisconsin, went down to Missouri. We're going to head east. We're going to cruise past Ohio. We're going to catch up on Ohio. I'm at the end tonight where Brian and I can kind of, and Bruce, we'll kind of just do like a recap of some of the things that we heard, similarities, maybe talk about some things that were new or different that we haven't really seen, heard, or experienced before. But let's keep let's keep this this bee train rolling. Let's go east, all the way to our furthest northeast beekeeper, and then the one and only Mr. Kirk. Kirk,
Hey.
how are you, sir?
Good. How you doing? Hey, thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, you bet. I would. Can you? I would attempt to butcher your last name, but how do you say your last name?
I'll probably say it wrong too. It's Hlavaty.
Hlavaty. Okay, I would definitely would have got
and
that
before
wrong.
you ask, it's a Czech name.
Okay. All right. Well, Kirk, tell us what state and what the name of your YouTube channel is.
So I'm in Connecticut. My channel is Good Enough Backyard Beekeeping, and I picked up the term "good enough" not to mean that I was cutting corners or anything like that, but what I was trying to tell people is there's a lot of stuff you just not necessary, and this is good enough. So the configuration I use is a standard Langstroth hive. I use a screen bottom board with political signs. So if you ever look at my YouTube channel, you'll see that I got my signs donated from one of the local politicians around here. It has nothing to do with my political affiliation. I claim I'm independent or neutral or whatever you want to call it. So I just use a basic Langstroth hive mouse guard. I found out, putting those on late gets me in trouble. And my last YouTube channel shows me getting rid of mice. And they make a real mess of your hive.
Yeah.
Mites, though, I think we've all been dealing with that. And I got a little cocky. I came out in the spring with checking my 3 hives, and I think I found 1 mite. And I'm like, wow, I'm pretty close to mite free. They're not detectable, and that's an alcohol wash. But what I do is I find myself going through most of the summer, getting very confident, and then all of a sudden the mite bomb hits. But what I do is I hit them hard with Formic Pro. So I'm not afraid of Formic Pro like a lot of people are, and it works. And I find that it's not the queen killer that people think. It will shut down your queen, maybe even for a month. You will notice that there are no eggs. You think your queen is gone. And now I'm mentoring people, telling them, just wait and be patient. So back to the winter part of that. I hit them with Formic. I usually hit them late, like around September, even almost into October. Now, the problem is I end up with some dead hives around that time, and it hit me hard this year. So I'm probably running at the highest 20 hives. I had about 15 hives, really strong, got it, 450 pounds on it. That's a lot of honey for me for a backyard beekeeper. And I'm in a neighborhood. Houses are 25 feet apart, side to side. Luckily, I'm wooded in the back, but most of my neighbors don't even know I have bees. But I'm also keeping like 15 hives. So my 15 hives, after my Formic treatment and my entrances were wide open, I got really surprised and humbled. And all of a sudden, I have 7 hives. And I'm actually hearing that. I watch a lot of YouTube. I watch you guys, and I'm starting to hear a lot of that people are getting surprised at the end of the year. Now, my overwintering, I'll go back. I go double deeps. I fooled around with single deeps. I tried nukes, overwintering those. I tried insulating the nukes. I tried all kinds of things, and what always worked for me was a double deep. So I said, you know what? That's just what I'm going to do, double deeps. I put a feeder shim on top with a 1/2-inch hole, so I ventilate. And in that feeder shim, I use Hive Alive. Thanks to you guys, I probably started using it. And I think one of the things that really helped me with is I wasn't seeing the dysentery, nosema, basically the bee poop all over the hives in the springtime or over the winter that I was before. So that's doing something for that. And then on top of that, I put a moisture board, Homosoap, and then about 1.5 inches of foam insulation, that pink stuff you get at the big box stores. And I just cut it with a knife and snap it. And then I use a telescoping cover on top of that. I do not wrap. I took a poll recently on Facebook, and Facebook is a real funny place for beekeeping. It's the point where I almost want to just stop going there. It's almost as bad as this political crap we just went through.
Yeah.
So I asked people, how far north has anybody gone without wrapping their hives? Top insulation's what you need mostly. I think I had someone up to the middle of Vermont that doesn't wrap or anything. So I'm trying to tell people you don't need to wrap your hives. I see temperatures down in the single digits, rarely, for about maybe a couple days to a week. And today it was 80 degrees. So I'm actually seeing a lot of the temperatures that you guys see in Ohio. And I know that because my daughter lives in Ohio and we talk to her every day. So we get the fluctuations like you guys. And I would love to see just a cold winter come and see them cluster. It's this having them flying in the middle of December or January even. So going back to my winter thing, I hit them with the formic late spring or late summer, early fall, and then around late November, December timeframe, we will hit a day it's 50 degrees, and I hit them with oxalic acid with the vaporizer. I lucked out years ago and I got Jono's Easy Vap or whatever, which he doesn't sell anymore. We all missed out on that as beekeepers. But I see the other ones out there, and I'm tempted to upgrade to one of the battery ones. So trying to think of where I'm at. Yeah, basically a basic Langstroth hive, nothing special. And I try to tell people it's good enough.
I like that. Good enough. There's a famous quote by Joel Salatin, and if anyone saw the news, Joel Salatin just got contacted by the Trump administration to be a part of the agricultural system moving forward. That's a big deal. Getting into regenerative farming and that holistic mindset is a big deal. Joel Salatin has a famous quote that I absolutely love, and it says, "Perfect is the enemy of good."
Thank you.
So good enough beekeeping, Kirk. I love your mindset with that.
And I'm just going to share one thing. It probably shouldn't even say this out loud. I'm an engineer by trade, and I work with engineers that are striving for perfection. And I came to the discovery: perfection is infinity. You never get there.
Right.
And I kept trying to tell people it's good enough. And you try telling an engineer that something's good enough, and they look at you like you're an idiot.
You probably can't get by with just saying "fake it till you make it" with them either, can you?
No.
That's great. Kirk, tell us about what was one of the hardest lessons learned you had with overwintering your bees in Connecticut?
Starvation. I seem to get the mite thing down. That I started in 2018, so long enough, but relatively new to some of the people I'm hearing here. But what really surprised me is to go into a hive and see nothing in there. And I experimented with candy boards as insurance, and those hives survived. I try to leave them enough honey that they're good. So one of the slap realities that I had this spring, I had a double deep full of bees in March, and they were thriving. I want to say it was almost a week later, they were dead. I did not know that they were on the limits of starvation. And so a strong hive coming into the springtime can starve very quickly if the resources aren't there.
Right. Well, that's a big deal. A lot of us have learned that the hard way. Bruce and Brian, have you guys learned the starvation lesson the hard way?
Yes, I have.
and for different reasons. Bruce, tell us about your starvation predicaments in Alabama.
Well, a lot of what happens here is we have such a temperature fluctuation. It stays warm a lot of the time, but they just can consume food quickly when they're out trying to forage. There's nothing coming in, and they just are burning up energy. And we burn up energy, got to replenish that energy. And the way you do that is by eating. And so they go through the stores very quickly. It's down here, if you're not careful, and it's just like what Kirk said, we'll have a booming colony. We have a little bit of a flow in January. We start with some red maples and things like that, and then you'll have a little mini flows that really stimulate the bees enough to grow, and then it just turns off for a couple of weeks. And so you just got to watch and make sure they got weight, because they can, when they build up very strong like that, they can crash, like Kirk said, like almost overnight. And I've lost several that way, and every year it seems like I lose some, and I try to do better, but still sometimes it gets away from me. But I haven't had a lot that have starved, but I've had some that have been close, quite a few that have been close. And I have found, we've mentioned the last couple of years that the fondant from Hive Alive is what I use, but fondant really seems to help. It just kind of ties them over, it gets them through those little stretches where there's nothing coming in. I don't know that it's not like they're going to store that and put it away, but it does keep them from starving. It can really do a tremendous job in helping with that and just keeping them strong and getting them through the little difficult patches. Because this is there'll be a trickle, there'll be food coming in, then there's not. Back and forth for a couple of months there in the spring. And it's just really kind of touch and go there for a little while.
Bruce is kind of in the worst case scenario because it's warm. And so the bees are out. There may be something coming in, there may not be, but the bees are kind of doing their thing. So it's like Bruce has the worst part of Ohio beekeeping, but it's a little different because he's not going to 18 at night. It might be 40s at night, 50s during the day, and they're in this they're still breaking cluster and burning through food, or they want to break cluster, they want to go on a cleansing flight. Where Brian, have you had times, Brian, where the cold nights, warm days is causing the bees to just burn through their resources way faster than normal?
Oh yeah. I call it the roller coasters of Ohio. Just we'll have on some days we'll have 30, 40 degree changes, and it's just insane. At night it gets super cold, and then in the daytime it's heating up. The bees are out flying, and you always find out which colony was not set up right, because come February, March, it's just doomed.
Done.
They all starve out February, March.
Yep. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that tonight. Kirk, I want to thank you for spending time with us. Kirk from Connecticut. Let's see, look at check my notes here. Good Enough Backyard Beekeeping. I love the name. I love the mindset.
Awesome.
Kirk, I went and subscribed to your channel. I checked it out. It's got a good looking channel. I like the way you do your videos there. So keep up the good work. And Kirk, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
I think this is going to be the year. It's shaping up to be one of the hungriest years for bees, especially in the Midwest area or on the Route 70 corridor. We talked about it at the last stream with the El Nino blue arrow of death is literally going right through most of these areas, which means warm and wet. And this neck of the woods means very little snow, rain maybe during the day, ice at night, huge temperature fluctuations. The bees are going to be out during the day, going to the bathroom, looking for something to eat, burning through those resources. That's going to be rough. And hopefully folks have put a good, solid food plan together. That is 3 in a row as far as folks are finding the benefits of using Hive Alive, not as an emergency food source, but as an insurance food source. And so I think that's a big deal. I'm going to do something, guys. That was 3 in a row. I just set up a little ticker here. Let's see if I can make it happen there. Okay, good. As you hear tonight on folks' tips and tricks, there's maybe some things I can't help you with, but one thing that I can help you with your bees is saving some money on Hive Alive fondant. If you want to save 10% on Hive Alive fondant, use discount code STREAMTEAM10 at naturesimagefarm.com. You'll save 10%, and it'll ship right here from the shop right to you. and we really appreciate that. We appreciate your support. Just a little way that we can help save you some money, hopefully keep some feed on your bees there. So we went clear up into Wisconsin. We went down to Missouri. We shot clear over to Connecticut. Let's go ahead and start making our way down a little bit. I want to thank all of these beekeepers who heard the call, who heard us in the last couple stream teams, put the word out that if there's anybody interested in joining and sharing their beekeeping, to shoot us a message. So I'm going to thank everybody for reaching out to us to do that. I'm really enjoying talking with so many folks. To keep this thing moving, though, I gotta let the old country preacher that was my grandpa is inside of me, something fierce, and so I just want to get on and visit and talk, and take these things in all kind of different places. I think for right now, we're going to head a little further south into the great state of Maryland. Now, let's see if make sure he's on here. There he is. Okay, let's jump down to Maryland and we get a little bit more coastal. And see maybe if that influence changes anything, and see how beekeepers in Maryland may do it. It's an honor to bring on the one and only Mr. Jason Crook, Bohemia Bees. Jason, good to see you.
Hey,
hang on one second.
How are you? I don't know about
Jason's
honor. I'm humbled to be here and share.
Jason's got to dial it in. He's just dialing it in.
Just dial it in, boys. Let's go. Oh, look at that. He's out of reach.
I'm dialing in. If you could see the floor behind me.
That's why you get the blur on. You don't need to see all that.
Like probably Brian's floor.
That's great. Well, Jason, big congrats. You hit your YouTube channel, Bohemia Bees. Just hit another milestone. 15K, I think is what you said. So congratulations on a huge boost in subscribers there. Jason, you're in the Maryland area. Can you talk to us a little bit about what is your brief synopsis on overwintering success for your bees on the eastern shore of Maryland?
Yeah, no. Well, I'm glad to be here, and it's actually about 16.7 now. So we're creeping up on 17,000.
Wow, good for you.
Hopefully that it does make the mark. Maryland, Maryland is an interesting place. You had mentioned that I'm on a shore, but I'm not on a shore. I'm actually on a peninsula, so I get a little bit of a lot of moisture. Let's say that. And I think I was trying to think of things when you asked about us coming in and sharing our tips and tricks, because I know that I've always stood to the fact that beekeeping is local, beekeeping is regional. It's unique to my apiary. What's different to someone whose apiary even a couple miles down the road. Everybody does things differently. So what could I share that's unique to me that maybe will help the people watching tonight? And I think the way I look at it really is you have to understand what your goal is with your bees. I think that's the biggest challenge. Is most people they want to have bees, they like honey, they get a couple beehives, then they're knee deep in it, and then they grow their apiary to 10 to 20 to 30, and then they hit winter, or maybe they go through a couple winters, they take some losses, and they try everything, right? You bolt on the quilt box, you put on the wrap, you put on the sugar shim or the fondant, you put on all the things that you think you need to do to help those bees make it through winter. And I'm here to tell you that all those things work. They all work in their own area, and each hive kind of will react to those types of mechanical treatments or mechanical solutions very well. However, when you grow your apiary and your goal changes from having 10 to 20 hives to having 100 plus hives like I have, your process has to change. It's just, I think Tom might have said it earlier. I don't remember who it was that said it, about having that many hives and going out and the task of wrapping with black tar paper, and then trashing the black tar paper at the end of the season, or trying to come up with a different solution like that. It's not economical. It doesn't make sense. So for me, I stopped all of that. I reached probably 50 to 100 hives, and I focused on the bees and the box, and I focused on some of the things that naturally, you look at bee volume, you look at mite volume, and you look at food volume. And each box that I look at, that I inspect, those are the three things that I check the box. Are they ready for winter? I think that's for my strategy. I know this sounds maybe a little bit morbid, because I know that people want to save every bee. But I realized very quickly, my mentor told me this, and just over the years, that you can't save every bee. So you have to do those things to the best of your ability to get those colonies to have good bee volume, good food volume, low mites, and then go into the winter that way. And you will lose bees. You will lose, we lose about 20% every year, and sometimes it's 15%, sometimes it's 22% or whatever. We've never lost a significant amount, thank God, knock on wood. But we also do have mild winters here on the eastern shore of Maryland. And what I mean by mild winters is we don't really get several feet of snow unless it's a crazy winter, and we don't get a lot of rain. Sometimes it warms up. We have 70-degree days that pop in and out every once in a while, so bees can do some cleansing flights. So we kind of are blessed with that mix of weather. It doesn't just get solid cold straight through. We do have that up and down, but it does change year to year. And according to the woolly bears, I don't know, Greg, if you've ever followed the woolly bears in your area, the woolly bears here are all light brown with a very little tip of black, which tells me that it's going to be a mild winter. And I just actually learned, I guess it was a couple weeks ago, someone told me why that is. And there's actually a science behind it. And I don't know if this is true or not. I didn't verify this fact. There's no fact check going on here this evening, Brian, sorry. But the woolly bears are all black because they need to absorb the sunlight to keep them warm through the winter. The woolly bears that don't grow the darker black hair and keep more of a lighter hair typically means that the winter ahead is going to be a mild winter. That's my understanding of it, whether that's right or wrong, but I think that makes a lot of sense to me because we wrap our hives in black tar paper to attract the sun to warm them. So I think that's really from my perspective, is knowing the weather in your area, looking for a good, strong hive, good volume of bees, good low mites, and good volume of food is the mix or the strategy that I use. I use several different types of hive styles. So I've tested multiple groups of polymer versus wood versus single deeps, double deeps, deep with a medium, 5/5, which is fantastic. Actually, I will side comment that 5/5s for some reason, I still haven't figured out the secret. But 5/5s have an amazing winter survival rate around here. And what I mean by a 5/5 is just a nook with 5 frames on the bottom, 5 frames on the top that you've grown. Rather than doing a 10 frame deep with 10 frames, it's 5/5. I think a lot has to do with the temperature and the rise in temperature and where the cluster moves up and the amount of bees in that box with the amount of food in that box. There's something about that mix that just really helps make that strategy work. So that's my strategy. I hope that's helpful for everyone. I can keep talking. I love to talk bees, as you guys know. Any opportunity I can jump on, you guys from the Eastern Shore of Maryland, I love to do it. So thanks for the opportunity to jump on and do that.
What was one of your hardest lessons learned, Jason, on getting your bees through the winter? That you said, okay, enough's enough. Now I'm going to start doing this. And then you started seeing more success.
Losing bees while still doing all that mechanical stuff. Yeah. That's the hardest lesson I think any beekeeper learns. You think you do everything. When I was 10 hives or 15 hives, and I wrapped every hive, I put a quilt box of pine shavings in it. I had a sugar shim in there. I had all that stuff. I mean, it looked like Brian's apiary, right? And I still lost bees. And I scratched my head banging against the wall. I said, well, how am I losing bees? I'm doing everything they're telling me to do. Why is it? I did everything I said, and I started to kind of then dissect what I'm doing and realize that, there is no silver bullet. There is nothing that's going to guarantee your bees through winter, except just making strong colonies and making sure their mite loads are low, ultimately, because that translates into low stresses on the colony, making sure that you have, good stores, a good amount of stores. I put a video out about 2 years ago that I still reference in the classes that I teach locally here, a reference to hive body strategy. And it kind of goes back to that 5/5 discussion. But I talk about that the amount of bee volume that goes into a cluster of bees, and I liken it to a basketball. A tight cluster, a good box of bees is like a basketball. And if you look at the size of a hive body and that basketball and a hive body, and then if that brood nest starts to pick back up, and naturally as you get towards the winter solstice around here, the cluster is contracting, the bees are dying, and then she starts to lay again, and it starts to build again, and you might get to a soccer ball, and she has a fist-sized cluster in the middle of that nest, and the honey's all up here because you got a double deep, and you had a box of bees that were this big when they clustered, when they went in, and they ate the periphery of honey around it. So now your nest is this big in the middle of that soccer ball, and they're not going to leave that nest and go get honey and come back, because if they do, then the nest dies and they die. So a lot of times my strategy is bring it the volume of bees in the box commensurate to the volume of bees in the cluster that you're working. That doesn't mean that I'm saying don't use double deeps. It doesn't mean that I'm saying you have to use this or that. But if you've got a colony and you're inspecting that colony and the volume of bees is boiling over a double deep and maybe a medium at the end of the season, make a split, double your options to maybe go into the winter. So if you lose one hive, you have another one, right? Make that cluster commensurate to the size of the box you're working, and you'll have a better success rate. That's what I've found in my experience. Does that make sense? I did a video on that, and I talk about that concept, and I didn't prescribe anything. I just said, think about the logic of this, and then make your own decisions.
I like it. That's, I think, Bruce and Brian, we've all talked about that. Similar things, right sizing our colonies for wintertime, getting them into the right size configuration for the right size cluster, for the right genetic type of bees. As simple as that sounds, that makes such a huge difference on how well that they do over the wintertime. Jason Crook, Bohemia Bees, Eastern Shore of Maryland, the Bohemia Bees YouTube channel. We've got links down below. Make sure you check out his channel. Show him some love. Jason, as always, thanks for collaborating and being part of the stream team, sir.
Thank you for having me on. Appreciate it.
Guys, I don't know if I can bring this map up here. Let's see if I can pull a Brian Coper Tech Wizardry Extraordinaire. Boom. Let's see if that works. Okay, we've already kind of gone around the horn. We started up in Wisconsin. Oh, it even shows my cursor. Look at that. That is fancy. Up here, Wisconsin, went down to Missouri. We blew right past Ohio because we always talk about our bees, Brian. Let's make it about some other folks. Went over to Kirk, over in Connecticut. We went down to Jason on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. And I want to thank Mr. John Rollins, just placed an order using the discount code for Fondant. John is in the great state of North Carolina. So let's do this. Let's keep with the North Carolina theme. And let's go just a hair south to some incredible folks. Man, I could spend hours talking with these guys, not just because of who they are as beekeepers, but who they are as tremendous lighthouses to not just the beekeeping community, but for people at large, especially in this day and age. Today specifically, I know Larry has been busy all day long. Really just his heart is in it to help folks, and he's been dropping some scripture, doing some live streams, just being that positive influence, being that lighthouse to others. So it is my honor to bring on the one and only Larry, Pastor Larry, and Jan Hancock. Guys, thanks for joining the stream tonight.
All right. Well, thank you all. We appreciate the opportunity and what you're doing. It's really good to see what's going on around us. We enjoy the stream team. We learned a lot. Three things came to mind real quick while I was watching. A couple of years ago, we had a kind of a crossroads, and Bruce we picked up something very important about being intentional. And we had to make a decision. It's really changed our world in beekeeping when we decided to be intentional. And back a little ways when Brian had his big giveaway, we won the compact INSTANTVAP. My bees thank you, but the beekeeper really thanks you as well. It's made a tremendous difference. And one of the streams is way back, I guess, somewhere. And actually, I think I've heard you mention it already, probably, but I know I've heard Greg talk about the number. We were like, what is that number? And I heard some very good words of wisdom. The number will find you. You can grow as big as you want to grow. Either you can grow to the point you want to be, or you'll end up back where you can take care of. And that's kind of what we've done. But it is a journey. We are a Hallelujah Bee Farm. And as Grace said, I am Larry, and this is my wife, Jan. And we like to say we're carrying on a family tradition. Her dad was a beekeeper. He pastored church for 24 years before he passed away in 2016. Always and told us, never get rid of the bees. He said they're too important. And that's one reason we were hung in there. And so now we're kind of trying to learn a little bit and grow. But we do have a YouTube channel and a Facebook page under Hallelujah Bee Farm. And not a lot of folks on it yet, but we love being able to share a little bit. Now, one thing that I've really noticed is when we talk about weather, I guess I hear this kind of more across the country than I expected, but we're in that up and down pattern. You never know what you're going to get, and it changes. We have that saying too: is if you don't like the weather, just hold on, because it'll change probably before the end of the day. And so we have those challenges as well, but we don't really have a lot of winter per se. Last year, I think we had about 2 days, maybe 3, where it dropped into teens, and other than that, it was pretty mild. And so this year, there's a term called normal weather. There is no normal weather. And it's been kind of crazy. When Hurricane Helene came through, we're about 3 hours southeast of Randy, Tar Heel beekeeper. I see he's in here tonight. And they got devastated. Asheville area, towns, just wiped off the map, and so much destruction. But all we got out of it was rain, and we actually got a beneficial rain. So for the first time in many years that I can think of, we've had a decent fall flow for our bees. We hardly ever get anything decent. And so it's been unusual for us. And we've benefited from the rain, from that. But end of October, going into November, has seen some unusual things around here. I'm gonna ask my Jan doesn't like to talk a whole lot on camera. She's like a fish out of water, she says. I've gotten kind of used to it. But she's a whole lot better at naming flowers and plants and stuff. So I'm going to let her describe a little bit of what we saw in late October and early November, which is unusual for our area.
We had an apple tree. It was blooming, and we had honeysuckles. We got a camellia bush, but they'll bloom. But we've got a hydrangeum that did not bloom in the summer. It's got blooms on it right now, just as blue as you want to see. And going to church, we got the morning glories that bloom out. Well, the morning glories were still when we come back from church. So they were it's just so unusual with all the plants that we've got going on right now. So.
Now we're in a place, I guess we're probably about setting a record in our area for a longest stretch without seeing snow. We don't see very much snow. My wife loves snow. She gets teased by it. We never see anything worth looking at. But we really haven't had a flake of snow in several years. I don't know what the number is.
Well, now watch out. Now, you know what they say? They say pride goes before a fall there. It sounds like someone's getting a little too proud of no snow there, Pastor Larry.
We do have persimmons that's got spoons this year, so I'm holding it out.
Okay, so let's talk about that for just a quick second, because a lot of folks, some of us are in tune with some hillbilly superstition when it comes to woolly worms, the number of rings and the color. You get so far north, we don't have a lot of persimmons to split the seeds. Can you talk to us about splitting the persimmon seed and what that looks like of a folk forecast of the wintertime?
Well, you can take the seed out of a persimmon and you can take it and split it with a knife, but you better be careful because that's a hard sucker to try to split. But if you open it up, you can get it'll look like a fork, it'll look like a knife, or it'll look like a spoon. And the old wise tales and all, a fork, it means that it's going to be
That's warmer, I believe.
I think it's kind of mild.
There it is.
Yeah, okay, all right. But now the knife is like the cutting, like you're going to have like a cutting the wind. The wind's going to really cut through you. But the spoon is going to be snow. But I keep looking for my spoons. Well, this year I've got my spoon, so we'll see.
Our granddaughter sent us a picture. They kept something down on the back of the property and sent us a picture not long ago with spoons. And then Jan saw another beekeeper here local just this past week, I think, and they did the same thing. They posted on there. They had spoons from the persimmon. So we'll see what this winter is going to hold. But either way, we keep our bees now. We pretty much run single deeps during the summer. And like I said, normally we don't get much of a fall flow around here, so we wind up feeding. But we do a couple of things when you're asking about tips and tricks. I don't know if it's a tip or a trick for anybody. I'm just going to tell you what we do. Matter of fact, when we first started, Jan came across somebody, and I give him credit for it, but we can't find it. Don't know who it is and never saw it again. But somebody had made insulation boxes to put down inside the hive, like a one or either width of a one or either two frames, and just basically build a box and put insulation on the inside of it, take up that space. And so we do that. And last year we went in winter with 24. We came out with 22. Didn't really have anything to do with cold weather. Cold weather doesn't bother us a lot. We get, like I said, we're pretty mild. Bees, we run Italians. I don't think we have a month that we don't have brood in the hives. We don't have a month that they don't fly at times. And but moisture is one of the things we have to deal with. And so we had some smaller ones, just basically nook sizes, and we just put them in a 10-frame box. And talking about that number, because we're not planning on growing, into the hundreds, so it's easier for us to do, something kind of custom. But we built we put insulation boxes in our smaller ones, like the nook size. Instead of keep them in a nook, we just set them in a 10-frame, dropped a couple of insulation boxes, 5 frames in the middle of them. And so they've been well protected. But on all of our 10 frames, and right now we're sitting at, I think, 21, and 20 of them are in 10-frame deeps. And one of them's a double 5, and it's probably going to wind up in a 10 frame. But I built some feeder boxes to sit on top of them, just about out of 1x3 box to go on top. And we run a round rapid feeder for sugar water in them. And we have ventilation holes in them. I know there's a lot of people have different ideas about that, but we got ventilation holes and then out the front and back with screen wire. And I learned the bees know a lot better than we do. If they don't need it, they will close it up in a heartbeat. And if they do think they need it, they'll open it up when they need to open it up. And so we keep that on year round. I've got a shim built on the bottom of it. Like last year we came back from the expo and we had some HIVE fondant, and we were able to just put that on top. So it worked really great. And we just leave it on year round. During the summer, we get a lot of hot temperatures here, and they have a little bit of ventilation in that. Whether it helps or not, I don't know. We run screen bottoms. I heard Kirk talking about using the political signs under it. We just put all of ours up under. That's what we do. Great time. This is a great time. Presidential election year is a good time to get election signs. But we just slide that sign up under it. And so we don't have a tremendous hard preparation, but we keep that feeder on there. And what we'll do, right now we're feeding them 2-to-1 sugar water, and we can feed liquid feed into December, usually no problem here if we need to. And then when it gets toward the end of the year, we'll take just a piece of burlap and just stop feeding the sugar water and take a 4-pound bag of sugar and just fill that feeder up. And if they need it, that's our emergency feed. They'll come up there if they need it. And they honestly don't take a tremendous amount. And during when spring hits, if they haven't taken it, we'll just dump that sugar in a bucket and add some water to it and have it start off with our sugar water. But we put burlap around that feeder. And so any moisture, we haven't had any problems with moisture with that combination. And usually with the, I think Kirk mentioned too, this the foam like insulation board sheets like from Home Depot. We use a 1 inch, and we cut a piece and lay it right on top of that with our lid. And so we seem to overwinter fine, with that combination. I think one of the questions has been, what's maybe the greatest problem with overwintering? And I think ours is probably, like we've already heard, early spring. Like I said, we don't, even after our red maples will bloom early, sometime early, February, we got red maple. And so the bees are ready to ramp up. They're taking off. Those Italians, you don't know what they'll do. They'll brood up and, it's like it's on. But then all of a sudden that red maple's gone. And it's quite a spell before we get anything else. But one of the problems we have here is almost every year between the time the red maple ends and time something else blooms, we'll get a hard freeze or maybe a couple of them. And so we have that days when they're super warm, they're flying everywhere. They're not thinking about clustering, and then all of a sudden we'll hit a hard freeze. And we have to be very careful about that. So that's probably one of the hardest times for us when it comes to, winter beekeeping. But yeah, ours, like I said, they don't get tucked away very much, but because they're going to fly. There's very few days we have that our temperature doesn't get above freezing, and that's really I hate to put it in a context because really there's not many days that it's not in the 50s, sometime during the month. So we're not warm with Bruce. I know Bruce he's got it pretty much wide open down there all the time. So we fit somewhere in between that. So we don't have that winter strategy where we've got to have them tucked in, and but we may do a little more than we need to, but it's worked good for us. So
what happened with the in October? Unusual.
The storm. Mm-hmm. We noticed something. We talked to some beekeepers around. I've mentioned it to Keith Spillman and different ones, and Hope over there in Rock Hill. He's close to us. We are about 10 miles south of the North Carolina line. You're talking about North Carolina. We're very upper part. We're Lancaster, South Carolina, and if you go straight north from our house, we're about 10 miles from the North Carolina line. If you go around the highway, about 40 miles, you get to Charlotte, North Carolina. But when that hurricane came through, I think Keith had posted on there and asked us, anybody noticed the bees, something unusual about the bees? And we did. Our bees were just like going crazy when it came through. And we didn't get the storm. We got the rain, but the barometric, the pressure, changed a lot. My arthritis could tell it. You could tell it in your bones. But the bees were just really, we looked at them and we sat there and looked at them. Are they swarming or are they leaving or what are they doing? And they were just acting crazy. And Keith, I noticed, had pointed that out as well. And so, but as I said, we always have brood. Some brood always, and usually they're brooding heavy, even right now. But we went in ours just a couple weeks ago to check on the feed since we had a greater fall flow than we normally have. We had 0 brood. Almost every hive had. We thought the queens were gone. Had no brood. No eggs, no nothing. And then we've been feeding them good, and we went back in them, and we found, the queens were there. We found the eggs. Now they got larvae. Now they're starting to brood back up. But there was a period they went completely broodless, and we haven't figured out anything about it. I don't know. I've asked people, can a storm affect them, in any kind of way? I'm not sure, but I just know they were acting a little crazy. So
that was the common denominator anyway.
So we haven't figured out anything. We haven't done any kind of treatments that would stop them or anything like that. So, but they seem to be doing all right now. Seem to be back on track.
That broodlessness, was that after the storm, or like you noticed like right after the storm, within that week there was no brood, or like?
No, it was probably been 3 to 4 weeks. It was enough that all the cat brood had emerged. There was a little bit of cat brood left. Most of it had emerged. Because we had a cold snap. I say cold for us, but it was just like the upper 30s. That's not cold enough to hurt anything around here.
Yeah.
But it wasn't then, because when we went in them, that cold snap, I went back and looked on the calendar, and it had only been like a week and a half before that. So it wouldn't have been long enough to hurt them, and all that cat brood emerged. But the time frame when we went in them, they were just, most of them, some of them hadn't started. They started the next week. And some of them had just started laying back. Like they had one frame that they had eggs on, and some of them had larvae. And so the time period would have been, the last they would have laid would have probably been right about the time the storm came through. So I don't know. I've never heard anybody say anything about it. It just seemed a little weird for us. And it was every hive.
Every one of them.
Out of 21, every one of them had the same scenario.
There's something special about those bugs in the box. I know Bruce and Brian, we've talked about it an awful lot. But when you get into the divine ordinance of these bees, you know, it is not beyond the realm of possibility that they got the memo. They know something that we don't, and then they react in that manner. That's a neat thing to think about for sure. Pastor Larry and Jan, thanks for sharing beekeeping in South Carolina. For folks, be sure to check out. They've got a Facebook group. I believe it's Landmark Pentecostal Church every Sunday morning. I go on and go live there. Check them out. They do a lot of great devotionals, and I really appreciate what you guys do, not just for the beekeeping community, but for the kingdom at large. Really appreciate you guys.
Greg, let me just throw one thing in there on Facebook. That is Landmark Pentecostal Holiness Church. And I just say that because there's a Landmark Pentecostal Church that will pop up if you don't put the holiness in there. It is from Texas. I've had somebody reach out to me, and for months we had a relation. I talked to them back and forth, and they thought it was somebody that was homebound, and they were in Texas. They thought they were talking to the pastor there at the church, and I finally realized, you know, when I got talking to them about what was going on, and like, where are you at? And I found out they thought they were talking to Landmark Pentecostal Church in Texas, but it is Landmark Pentecostal Holiness Church.
Awesome.
But I got mine too. Larry Hancock and Hallelujah Bee Farm. You know, normally you can find those links somewhere in between there. But we do appreciate everybody that listens and, you know, comments sometimes. We appreciate that.
We appreciate you guys. Thanks for sharing with us, and we'll see you on down the road. Thanks a lot.
We enjoy y'all's streamlining. Thank you for having us.
You
Thanks
betcha.
for coming on. Thanks, guys.
Let's pull up the map here. Let's see where we're at here so far, where we're going to head next. What do you guys think so far?
Good so far.
I think it's fun to hear just some of these little different nuances. Look at Bruce's, man. Bruce is getting all fancy. Look at that. All right. So we just Hallelujah Bee Farm here in South Carolina. Let's head over to Alabama. Now we've got, not including the Dothan Shogun, we've got 2 beekeepers to check in from Alabama. And I think this is going to be cool because beekeeping can be so different, even 2 beekeepers in the same city, but a couple different beekeepers, different parts of the state of Alabama. Let's go ladies first. You know her, you love her. Not only is she a beekeeper, not only is she a Grammy, not only is she a midwife, but she's a Grammy midwife and a beekeeper. Let's bring her on, Miss Lisa Gowan. Lisa, thanks for joining us tonight.
Good evening.
You staying busy down there in Alabama with your bees?
Goodness gracious, yes. Woo, been feeding the heck out of them.
Talk to us a little bit about your winter strategy for your area of Alabama on your YouTube channel, Grammy, Midwife, Hives, and Homestead. Talk to us about your beekeeping for the wintertime, Lisa.
Well, wintertime here is very, very mild. So if we lose bees in the winter, it's usually from starvation because they are going to be out flying quite a lot down here. So what I've done so far is, of course, I've gotten my mite treatments on. I had 2 hives that were a little bit high. Pink, as a matter of fact, was one of them. Yeah. And one of my other ones, Pink, had quite a few mites, but her hive was strong. She's the only double deep I have. The rest of them are single deeps. But we treated with, let's see, what did we start with? I hit them with some OA, and then I put some Apiguard on, and I'm on the 2nd round of Apiguard with them now. And we have been feeding 2 to 1 like crazy. I'm up to 19 hives. So we have been really putting it to the newer hives because they're very light. So I just really, mainly what I do is not much different from what hasn't already been said. I check the weight very closely to make sure that they have resources, and if they're low on resources, I go back and feed them. But I'm finding that I need lots more bucket feeders, Greg. I need lots more bucket feeders. I love those things. They are coming in handy. I think they seem to do better, and it's nice because I don't even have to open up the box. So, but yeah, that's mostly what we've been doing is just treating for mites and feeding like crazy. Oh, Brian,
How much Apigard are you using, Lisa? And half dose or full dose?
I used on my stronger hives, I used a full dose. On the smaller hives that I'm just kind of nursing, we used a half dose. But yeah, on my strong hives, I just went ahead and used a full dose. The weather has been pretty mild. Of course, it's been warmer today. It was, I know right now I know I look crazy. I'm sitting in here in a jacket. It's 73 degrees outside, but my house is like a meat freezer. So I'm sitting right underneath a vent and I was cold. But no, mostly I use the full dose and they seem to be doing just fine with it. They do brood back quite a bit with Apigard. Of course, the queens, Pink and also her daughter, they brood back quite a bit anyway, but they haven't really started brooding back a lot yet. I still have about a box and a half full of bees in Pink. The other one started brooding back a little bit, but I'm still seeing some brood in there. But they're good queens, Greg. They're awesome.
I'm glad you're enjoying them. They seem to they're so in tune with the surroundings. We can sometimes, because of that, if we keep bucket feeders on there, those bucket feeders, why we use them so much is they stimulate an incoming flow. So the queens and the bees that are in tune with that bucket feeder, it just seems to help keep that moving along just a little bit further. But Lisa, can you talk to us about you're in Alabama, so we've been all across the Midwest, all the way down the Eastern Shore, where folks get winter and ice and snow. I've never heard Bruce really complain about snow a whole lot, so I don't think you probably get any either. But what kind of hive configurations do you feel you have had the most success with?
Well, I've recently, in the past couple of years, I've gone mostly to single brood box. I do have a couple that, well, I know Pink is in a double box because she just exploded in the spring. But for the most part, I do single brood management, and they seem to do well. And I'll add a double second brood box in the spring, and they usually fill those up in no time. But they do pretty good here in a single box. And it makes it easier when I do get a chance to go out and inspect it on warm days, because I will go occasionally. Like right now, I'm only going in every couple of weeks just to change out the Apigard and to check the resources. And what is that? I'm sorry. My ADD is like kicking tonight. So the comments, I probably need to cut the comments off.
We mostly can't hardly even keep up with the comment. There's this scrolling thing off the side.
I see Brian's always making a smart comment at me.
And all of us are running on no sleep, so we're like extra silly, extra wore out, extra distracted on top of all that.
Do not read my comments.
Using the bucket because it is
Lisa treated today.
With a bucket.
We got to put it on there now. So Lisa treated today because it is today, and yesterday was today's yesterday. So she'll treat
I'm
next week
unburdened by what has been.
You're unburdened by. That's hilarious.
Oh,
well, there's another
decorations
comment there
in my apiary too, is a Trump fan sign.
Here, hang on 1 second. So
Lisa
she
uses
uses
a
a
bucket
bucket
because
because it's liquid in a bucket, and with the bucket you get feed in a bucket.
Yep. Word salad too.
I think we can tell who Brian voted for. Brian, say who you voted without saying.
Yeah, tell me who you voted for without telling me who you voted for. Right.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yep.
Lisa, you mentioned Pink, and so for folks who are listening who may not have any idea what that's about, you got to go back to Lisa's YouTube channel, Grammy Midwife Hives and Homestead. Back, Lord, when was that? That was last year sometime.
23.
in May of
May
23.
of 23.
Lisa came up here to Nature's Image, and boy, we had a good time there. We had a wild swarm get out of control. We were in the midst of all that. And one of the coolest things that 99 out of 100 keepers, maybe even more than that, will never ever see is a queen get mated during a swarm. And I saw her land, and we caught her, and she had the mating sign on the rear. Just an incredible thing to see. So what we did is we captured that queen and got her here, got her established. And once she got her feet underneath of her, I sent her down to Lisa, and her name's Pink. So check out.
She's Hadassah. She's Hadassah,
Hadassah.
and she's
Okay.
kicking too. She's doing good.
Good.
But
And then she has a daughter.
She actually died off, and I have her daughter now.
That's so cool.
Pink she has really been kicking it. And I actually split off Pink, and her daughter's name is Daisy. And actually, Bruce's newbie with Hives for Heroes is the one who named Daisy. So I have Daisy in my long hive in my horizontal.
Nice. That is such a
really
cool
good
thing.
one.
That's the whole point of we're so excited to get our genetics to folks all over the place. Just not so they have not that they're stuck on a hamster wheel of always having to have our genetics, but when you start blending those into your lines and you start getting these new daughters off of that and they're mating with your drones, you've got really something unique and special. If anything, it's a great storyline. So be sure to check out that video from March of last year. Grammy, Midwife, Hives, and Homestead. Lisa, thanks for spending some time with us, talking to us about these brutal blizzard winter conditions that you have in Alabama.
It's rough down here in the
We'll think
winter.
warm thoughts. We'll think warm thoughts when we'll think
We
of you.
still have our air conditioner going.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, she's got a jacket on because the air conditioner's freezing her out. That's
My
great.
husband keeps it like a refrigerator in this house.
That's awesome. Well, Lisa, thanks again. We'll see you down the road.
Thanks. It's good seeing you guys.
See you, Lisa.
You Alabama beekeepers, man, I tell you, I want to feel sorry for you. Let's go over to the only one who is still wearing an Alabama hat, no matter what. We're talking about dedication here. I mean, it's not Bruce. No, it's not Bruce. There. Okay, it's almost there. All right. Let's bring on the young gun himself, Grayson. How's it going, Grayson?
Hello. How are y'all?
Hey, Grayson.
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
Doing good.
Yeah, that's right. I'm
talk
still
us a little
dedicated.
bit of-
Roll Tide,
Yeah,
Grayson. Roll Tide.
Look at you guys. That's great. Grayson, talk to us a little bit about your YouTube channel and what your wintering strategy is. And you're in Alabama, aren't you?
That's right. I am in southeastern Alabama. I'm not too far from Bruce, and we're kind of similar to Lisa. We're not really harsh weather down here. It's really nice. We're able to go out with shorts on, and I've been inspecting bees lately, so not really cold weather. And next couple weeks is supposed to still be warm weather. So yeah, we're doing pretty good. And right now, we're still not really getting into winter, but we're getting near. I'm believing here soon. The main thing I'm really focused on is I've already treated mites with Apigar this year, something new I'm trying out. And main thing right now is I'm really focusing on feeding, because since we have a lot of warm weather, our bees are consuming a lot of food. So I just want to kind of keep these bees heavy and kind of get them into winter heavy.
That's great. Can you talk to us a little bit about what configuration that you prefer, that you have found the most success with in Alabama?
For sure. I've tried multiple different ones. I do have a nuke right now. Sometimes I overwinter with nukes, but I mainly run single deeps, like mainly throughout most of the year, except for whenever we have a flow and I want to get some honey, I'll put some supers on top. But other than that, I usually just run single deeps. And the reason why I've just been running single deeps is just a little bit, not really main reason. I just kind of figured out that it's just a little bit more better down here just for singles. I've tried doubles and they work good too, but I've made consideration to follow them. I just figured that singles do work much better for me down here in Alabama, and I've kind of run with that most of the time. But I will say I do run some nukes as well. So I do have a nuke, so just in case, I'm kind of using that just as a nuke battery, kind of what Ian up there does, and I've kind of took that as well. I'm just going to use it just in case if one of my bigger colonies runs out with a queen, I can just take that nuke and put it right into the never colony if it needs a queen.
Yeah, that's great. You do a great job on your channel running folks through kind of what your approach is with your beekeeping. Grayson, can you talk to us a little bit about what was, one of your hardest lessons learned being successful wintering your bees in Alabama?
Definitely. There's a lot of things that I have learned in the past, and especially last year when we went through winter. I had a very, very rough year, as most people know. I've talked about it a lot. I had a rough year that winter, and a big problem was, all my colonies weren't strong, and I didn't keep them strong enough that year because I had a lot of weak colonies, and they never stood a chance. But this year I've felt that I've done a much better job at that. I do think that last year I really wasn't intentional with my bees, so I've talked a lot about intentional, and I'm sure I know you guys have talked a lot about too, and I haven't really been intentional last year, so that's one thing I really did learn, that being intentional is really important, and being proactive as well, because last year I was really reactive at situations, and I wasn't prepared really good, I should say. So I've learned those lessons, just try to be prepared a little bit better and be a little bit more intentional with my bees, and especially in winter. That's really important, especially this time of year.
Bruce, do you see any parallels with Grayson and Lisa's beekeeping? Do you see any parallels with what they do and some of the things that you have found to be trouble spots or things that work well for you too?
Oh, for sure. It's I'm in Dothan. Grayson's up around the Troy area. It's about an hour away, and Lisa's right in the middle. So we're all pretty much right here in the same area. It's amazing, though, there is a difference. Lisa, I do have some bees up in Ozark as well. And this, even that 20 miles or so is just, sometimes it's just different. The weather, you can leave it. And certain times of the year when it's cooler, in the middle of the summer, it's the same everywhere. But if it's, say, in March or April, sometimes you'll leave Dothan, it'll be a little bit warmer, and you can go up to Ozark and you can sense a little difference in temperatures in that 20 miles. But I think they probably manage. We all have this similar problems. We all have similar foliage, forage for the bees. And so, we all do things a little differently, I'm sure, but it sounds like Grayson and Lisa have it figured out better than me. So I'm glad they're doing good. I'm having, we've had a drought here. Grayson, it hasn't rained up there much, I know too, either. And so that's why Lisa's talking about feeding, and Grayson's working on it too. And I've really focused on feeding my bees down at Appleton Farms because I made those late summer splits, but I've fallen back a little bit on the rest of them. So I've got to get some food out on. That'll be one of my goals over the next couple of weeks, is just start pouring food to them, because it's just been so dry. We do have a little bit of a front coming through, a little bit of a rain. Just today we had rain for the first time really in significant rain in probably 5 or 6 weeks since the day before Helene, I think, or the day of Helene. And so it's just been so dry. Bracken's out there in the desert. It's kind of like, it hasn't been quite that dry. We're not in a desert, but it sure has felt like it the last few days. So yeah, very similar management technique. Can y'all hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I can hear.
Can you hear me? Oh man, seriously.
You're good. We can hear you now.
Hold on.
I muted myself. The key to talking is to make sure you're unmuted.
My darn.
You seem a little burdened by this mute thing, but there, Brian.
If I
Why don't you unburden
mic,
yourself from that, would you?
If I touch my mic or bump it a certain way, like my computer switches from my mic to my computer, and so it mutes it on the program here. So I didn't do that on purpose. I bumped my mic, but it's been doing that the last couple of weeks. I'm not sure why, but yeah, very similar management, very similar situation, very similar forage for the bees. And I think, Grayson, don't you live up like aren't there pine forests all around you?
Yes, there's a lot of pine forest around here. We live in like a forest type, it's like there's a lot of pine trees in our area.
Is a lot of hardwood too, and just regular forest too, or is it mostly just pines? Do you have all the different stuff?
We have some oak trees. We have
Okay,
some
good.
big oak trees scattered around, and then mainly pine trees around here.
Yeah, it looks like I see your videos. It looks like they're plopped right down in the middle of pine. A lot of pines in this area, but if you got hardwood forest within a couple of miles and just regular standard woods, you should be in pretty good shape. I'm sure you've got privet and tallow in those woods and everything. And I've seen in videos you got water sources, you got streams and stuff around too. So here in Alabama, really, it's kind of hard to find an area. You're hard pressed to find an area where there's not a stream or a pond or a creek or a lake within, or a swamp within, a half mile to a mile of your bees. It's pretty easy to keep them hydrated. Even when it's dry, there's always something around usually for them to get hydrated. The biggest problem with these droughts is just everything drying up, all the food sources, and pollen and everything. Normally we have pollen year round. I haven't seen a lot of pollen lately. And so, most of the time during the year we see some pollen coming in. So it's just dried up. But anyway, but good to have you on, Bracken. Thanks, or not Bracken, but Grayson. Glad I see Bracken in the comments. So
that's him down there.
Well, hey, Brian, I know Brian is just he's jealous of all these southern beekeepers that are spending 10.5 months a year in their bees. Up here we've got things like woolly caterpillars. Pastor Larry and Jan talked to us a little bit about the persimmon seed. Now, Grayson, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but the truth of the matter is everyone is tuning in tonight. And we have some great Alabama beekeepers like Bruce and Lisa who are absolutely depending on you right now to give everybody the winter forecast for Alabama. What does the bee forecast look like for bees in Alabama?
It looks good. I actually did just recently look at some of the forecasts, and it really does look like down here it's going to be really warm for the next couple of weeks, which I'm really glad of that, and it's going to be really nice weather, and so it's going to be really nice. And I know a lot of more northern beekeepers like Greg and Brian down there up there, and I know a lot of you guys are probably already experiencing cold weather, but down here it couldn't be better. It could be better down here. I think tomorrow we're gonna be in like the 80s, like low 80s, and then we're gonna be in some of the high 70s, and then the lows we get to like 60s and high 50s. So we're gonna be looking good for the next couple of weeks.
Now,
Brian,
listen,
we're doing it wrong, Brian.
Listen, we do have some. It depends on interpretation. Some cold weather down here.
Come on, Bruce.
But not in the next couple of weeks. But we're talking. It does freeze, and occasionally we hit the teens down here.
It does a couple times. It will. I've mentioned that.
But then but like I say, it never gets. It's kind of like up in South Carolina up there. It gets cold, but then you're never within more than a couple of days you're never more than a couple of days away from a 50, 60 degree day. So it sometimes it dips down pretty cold at night, but usually they fly during the day. Oh, yeah. Pretty much year round. We will have occasionally a couple 3 days in a row where they don't fly, but typically, we don't when it's a cold snap down here, it's usually not more than a week at the very most. And a cold snap can be defined as, we think it's cold, but you guys will be wearing shorts and t-shirts if it came down.
Are you hearing these guys, Brian? They're saying, it's going to be like 25 degrees Celsius.
For 2 hours in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But that's Celsius.
No, that's, all joking aside, anyone who knows bee biology and what bees do in different weather, you guys have your own set of trouble with having warm weather all season long like that. It poses its own breeding ground for hive beetles and mites and starvation and everything. There's nothing, no matter where you go, there's nothing easy about it.
Challenges, yeah.
I just keep trying to tell myself I need to go north or I need to go south, because we're in the middle of it. Yeah. And we get all the junk that you guys don't like. We get all the junk up north that no one likes. We get the north and south junk of beekeeping, and that's kind of rough. But Grayson, thanks for tuning in tonight. Thanks for tuning in. You've been a loyal follower and listener for so long, and I'm really looking forward to folks. Set your calendars. Monday, the 18th, I'm going to be a guest on the Wildwoods Honeybee Farm YouTube channel. Grayson and I are going to talk about bees. Grayson, what are we going to talk about?
Oh, I'm thinking we're going to be talking about some different things. I got multiple questions, like some things that you're doing up there. Like
they're easy questions. Are they multiple choice?
Easy questions, but I do have some tough ones. I still haven't really figure it out fully, but we are going to talk a little bit about kind of what you're doing up in your area. I know you talk a lot about it on your channel with all your viewers, but my viewers might want to hear some of the things you're doing. And
sure.
We're just going to try to chat bees and answer questions. I'd love to talk with bees and my viewers and get guests on just to kind of learn from them and see what they like to do.
Well, I'm looking forward
to it. Grayson, be careful. Be careful asking Greg tough questions. He struggles with those.
He usually or C. None of the above.
He normally has a hard time thinking of something to talk about too. He really struggles with
really short answer too.
You have to really
draw it out.
Have to pull stuff out of Greg. He doesn't like to talk very much.
Yeah.
He'll never get on a rant either.
Never.
No short story longs out of this guy ever. He's not going to.
He doesn't like to preach. No preaching from that guy.
Yeah.
All right.
You give me a seam to preach, and I'm going to be up there on that pulpit. Monday, the 18th. What is that? What time is that? 8 o'clock local, your time?
7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Same time y'all start.
Same time, 8 p.m. Eastern on the 18th on the Wild Woods Honeybee Farm YouTube channel. Can't wait, Grayson. You're a young gun. I appreciate what you do. You do such a great job. I think you're going to inspire a lot of folks to get in there and keep bees and share their experience. So keep up the good work, and thanks for joining us tonight.
For sure. Thank you, and we'll see y'all next time, and see you on the 18th, Greg.
Okay, we'll see you then.
All right, man.
Take care, buddy.
I love getting the young folks on here who are just on fire to do it, and they've got a lot more guts than a lot of folks do, and they just are in it to win it. They're just sharing their thing, having fun, and that is super cool. I got to thank Castle Hives. Bees are just a conduit. But Brian, thanks for the super chat for the over 3. I mean, we're 3 years into this thing, man, and you guys are there's no way you're going to keep wearing it out. Just to keep doing the balloons and the signs. Bruce, thanks. Hashtag stream team. Hashtag winter beekeeping. Hashtag be the lighthouse. Bruce, I really appreciate you and all your guys' support. You guys are really awesome. We've got just a couple more left, and we seems like we've kind of stalled into a certain pattern. When you get into South Carolina and Alabama, it seems like for most of this general area, we're going to be seeing something similar. So I tell you what, let me pull up the bus route here. And okay, let's do this. Let's see. We're gonna hop in the Burns Mobile and let's go. Let's see if I can pull that up. Let's do this.
We can be driving a couple thousand miles now, aren't we?
Well, let's see. Let's pull this up.
Can't we have it like a yellow submarine?
I mean, we all live in a yellow submarine.
Exactly.
There we go. All right, let's go from Alabama, hop in the Burns bus, go on down the road. Let's go all the way to Bruce's neck of the woods, one of Bruce's neck of the woods. Let's go over to Utah.
Wow.
And visit with the one and only. Let's get this other screen off here.
I want to see what kind of hat this guy has on because he says it's a surprise. I hope it's not what I think it might be. Or maybe it's a good hat.
Let's see.
So we'll see. Let's see what he's got on.
Barker's Bees and Honey.
Oh, yes. Yeah, there we go. Good. Okay.
Look at that representing.
I thought he was going to be having on a University of Utah hat, which would be absolutely, I don't know. I'd still be his friend, but it'd be tough. But now he's got the Bruce's Bees hat on, so that's cool. Awesome, Bracken.
Bracken, unmute your mic. There you go.
There we go.
And that
hat. I should have had a University of Utah hat on. I wasn't thinking of that.
Yeah, don't do that, Bracken, man. You're treading. No, I'm just kidding. Utah and BYU are like Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama, Auburn. It's one of those deals where it's just not. And this is rivalry week. But yeah, that's the hat. You got that hat from right down here. And wow. Brian Lee, courtesy of Brian Lee. Brian Lee made that for me. So looks Brian's good, man. Looks good on you. How's it going, man?
Tell us about you, where you're at, and your YouTube channel, and then let's from there let's get into what your wintering strategy looks like.
Yeah, so I'm from northern Utah. I'm about 15 minutes away from the Idaho border. My YouTube channel is Barker's Bees and Honey. I'm not a super good editor, I kind of just show things raw footage. I don't do a whole lot of editing. I have a cool little app on my phone that I've been using though that, you know, helps kind of slide the videos back and forth, or transitions and little intros and stuff, and I can kind of cut some stuff. But I'm not as good as you guys with your intros and your cool little pop-ups and stuff, but I enjoy doing it.
We're compensating. Don't be fooled. We're just compensating, okay?
Yeah. So I'm actually in southern Utah right now. I live 15 minutes from the northern border. Now I'm about 15 minutes south of the southern border. So I'm on the opposite end of the state for work, but it's still cold down here.
Well, tell us a little bit about what a configuration that you find to be successful in northern Utah. What does that look like for you as far as hive configuration and your overall strategy for getting them through the winter successfully?
So as far as boxes go and stuff, double deeps has been what I've been using. Last year, I had a few single deeps get through. I'll talk about that in just a minute. But my mentor, Brad, he told me there's 3 things that bees need in Utah here, and it stuck with me, and it's always been this is my winter strategy right here in 3 things: food, dry, and good health. If they have those 3 things, then they'll make it through the winter. If they stay dry, you know, good lids on them. I don't wrap my colonies, and tonight's low is 23 degrees Fahrenheit, so -5 for all you Canadians out there, Celsius. I had to look that up. I'm not that smart.
I was impressed. That's quick math there, man.
Don't worry, I had it prepped. But yeah, some people wrap them around here, but there's plenty of colonies around that go into double deeps. I am getting to where I'm going to overwinter single deeps if I keep them here. Most of my colonies will be going to the almonds next week. So I kind of gear some for Utah winter, but I also gear them going into the almonds. So I kind of do 2, you know, in the fall, 2 different things. I prep my winter hives and I prep my almond hives. So a little bit different strategies there.
So you're going towards singles. You've done doubles in the past. You don't wrap. Your focus right now is getting bees for the almonds. So that kind of looks a little different. If they were all staying in northern Utah for the duration of wintertime, have you found that affects your strategy differently than what your strategy may be getting them prepped and ready to go west to California?
Oh yeah, for sure. So the ones that stay, I'm going to keep about, there'll be a dozen or so that gets left behind here. They won't go to California, maybe more. But yeah, my strategy is quite a bit different there. I pretty much kind of do what Steppler does: pump them full of feed, get them super heavy, make sure the mites are good. I mean, I've heard a lot of the same strategies kind of as from everybody else. I don't really have anything different. You know, we do get pretty cold weather. We'll see negatives and, you know, teens quite a bit. Last year, I don't know if we saw negatives, but we saw some teen numbers and single digits. Pretty common, but I've opened my bees. You know, I put a lot of sugar bricks on for the ones that do stay. I have had some that have starved because they cluster up to a corner in the side of they're eating the honey and they eat to the side of the box, and then they don't make it back over to the other side where the honey is. But my strategy is basically, you know, kind of what you guys do. Just keep them fed, healthy, and dry.
I think it's interesting to learn from everybody tonight, you know, what are the main fundamentals that they're looking for. And we'll talk about it when we recap Bruce and Brian, but I'm shocked in a couple different ways, and we'll talk about that. it's kind of neat because I think things like these chats, YouTube channels where folks are able to just so quickly disseminate and share information, I think it really makes such a huge difference. I can certainly tell you, some earlier bee chats that we were a part of years ago, there was a certain way that a lot of the folks would do things, but there was always questions. There's always folks who, how much insulation should I put on there? What kind of a quilt box? What kind of a hive cozy? What kind of all these different things? But it seems like as more experience is being shared and folks are able to have some successful years on doing things a certain way, that information is really getting out there. And that's a really interesting thing to think about, how fast the beekeeping approach is, how fast that is changing in relation compared to how beekeeping historically, how slow a lot of that has been up until the last few years. It's things that were done a certain way, and you ask folks, well, even some things that we hear tonight, some things were done because that's the way it was done, or that's what way that they learned. It's going to be interesting to see the next 3 to 5 years what that looks like for beekeepers, what things are considered mandatory, what are necessary, what are more idealistic, and what is just personal preference. So, Bracken, to recap, it sounds like you're pretty much double deeps, migrating more towards singles, and then migrating most of your operation from northern Utah to go out to California. Look at that beautiful landscape there. I mean, that is absolutely gorgeous.
Hey, can you make that bigger, Brian? Look how awesome that is.
I don't know how you can make that.
I don't know either.
Brian maybe can.
It's just such a beautiful.
Did you see the thumb? Oh, go ahead.
Tell us the story of that, Bracken. When is that? Where is that? Look, I mean, y'all. Those who haven't been to Utah, been to Utah cannot understand how beautiful it is. Sometimes it is just absolutely breathtaking out there at certain hours and times of the day and certain times of the year.
That was at about 7:30 in the morning. Probably we were getting our pallets filled out and ready for moving them to the almonds next week, and just kind of doing some moving around. But yeah, that was just an early morning, nice and cool. There was frost on the ground. You can't really, I can't see any frost in that picture, but there was frost on the ground, and
wow,
probably 36, 37 degrees in that picture.
You did the video of all the different. You've got the green, the brown, the brown, and the snow in the mountains. Yep. So all 3 seasons all represented in one picture in one of your videos.
Well, that mountain is actually, the mountain is right behind those. So you see the center where the sun's coming up. Just to the right of that is where, up on that mountain, that's where that background of those mountains were taken in that other video. Because yeah, it was green pasture, dead on the bench of the mountain, and then snow. It snowed that day, so
yeah,
wow,
so pretty.
There's something special about I'm sure there's lots of mountain ranges, but I've been and hiked around. I think it was the Timpanogos range. There are a couple trails and caves, and there is just absolutely, for lack of better words, something sacred about a lot of that landscape. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Words can't do it, photos can't do it, but just to be there. It's just amazing. It's absolutely it's unreal. So
it is.
Yeah, great photo. Bracken, your channel, Barkers, Bees, and Honeys. I think it's great that Bruce is kind of bringing some of the Utah crowd into this community, because up until then there wasn't really a lot of folks when we get west of Mississippi. There wasn't a lot of YouTubers or content from beekeepers that were kind of in the fold. Not to say that they didn't exist, but maybe hadn't been a part of the fellowship here. So I know we're looking forward to kind of following you along and seeing what your bees do. As we close out, Barker or Bracken, what was one of the hardest lessons learned getting bees to survive your winter?
I'd say feed. Just making sure that they have feed. I was thinking of that, and I tried to write some down because I knew you were going to ask me that, but I can't necessarily think of something that's been, I can think of things that I could have done better, like feed a little more. But as far as like an actual challenge, I've had pretty, as long as I do those 3 things, you can get bees through the winter. You know,
Yeah, good.
I knock on wood, but haven't had a super hard challenge per se.
Yeah. Well, that's good. You know the hard lessons learned. When you ask the question, those of us who have been humbled with a hard lesson or two, it spits right out. So you've been mentored wisely, and the wisdom of must have soaked in, because you haven't had one of those quite yet. Doesn't sound like.
Not quite yet. I'm sure it's coming.
Well, Barkers, Bees, and Honey Bracken, thanks for spending some time with us. Looking forward to seeing what you do, and hope you have a great run out there in the almonds this year.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Bruce.
Good to see you, man.
I'll see you.
It's good guy.
Yeah, and I like that. That's a neat segue, because we've been let's pull up the map here. All right, so let's see. We're going to go up to, oh boy, I forget where he's at. Let's see.
We know he's in California.
Well, Brian, this is like suspenseful.
Oh, well, we know he's in Haiti.
There, yeah, right. Okay, the map's too big. I've known this guy for a long time. Been a part of bee chats for many years. It's been great to watch folks grow, get into their own thing. It's pretty awesome. Let's bring him on. The one and only THANKYOU Prater, Loma Vista Bee Co. Todd, thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, Greg, thank you. Hey, Brian. Hey, Bruce.
Hey, man.
Thanks for having me on.
We're gonna throw the map up here. Are you in Northern California?
I'm almost dead center of California. I'm
Central.
in Fresno, which is basically the geographical marker for the exact center is about 10 miles north.
I'm gonna pop you in here. All right, Fresno. When I hear Fresno, I'm not gonna lie. When I hear Fresno, I think of one thing: a Frisco sandwich. I'm not sure why. I always think of a bacon, a nice hamburger, tomato, the sauce. Anyways, it's getting time to eat. Let's see here. Let's put you on the screen here. So let's see. Okay, here we go. So there we go. It's an interesting look, because let me get to my bigger screen here. I feel like one of those ridiculous election people who are pulling up maps so gracefully and eloquently. I'm the opposite, right? So we've cruised from Alabama all the way up to Utah with Bracken, and he was talking about, he was up in the northern part. Now today down in the southern part, but he's getting his bees ready to go to the almonds. And I know, Todd, you originally earlier in your beekeeping journey, you were more focused on, I think, your homestead and getting the bees growing, and then they started growing more. Can you talk to us a little bit about what your goals are for your bees in California? Because what does wintering even mean for a California beekeeper?
Well, where I'm at, there really isn't winter. There is sort of. I think it snowed here twice in the last 40 years.
Wow.
And even then, that's a dusting, right? It's gone in an hour. It gets cold. A hard freeze happens usually between Christmas and New Year's. It'll get down to 24, 25. The orange farmers are, hectic. But that's it. So there really isn't a winter per se. So, prepping for winter is a little different for me. I start in August, like everybody else says. Your year starts in August. So I start writing notes on the lids. Hey, how many frames of bees do I have? And I'll go through them a couple more times. So September, October, that's where I ruthlessly call. If a queen's population is dwindling after I wrote something down in August and it's smaller in September, then I take a deeper dive. I look for the queen. If I see the queen, if she's got tattered wings, then I go, all right, what's going on here? Because tattered wings means she's a little older. And so then I'll dig a little deeper and I'll look at her egg pattern. If she's not laying a lot of eggs, I can pretty much guarantee you she's not going to make it past December. And so at that point, I dispatch her. I take her out of the equation. I save those resources, maybe put them somewhere else if I need them, and that's it. Now, if the colony is kind of dwindling, and I see a young queen, meaning the wings are still in pretty good shape, she kind of looks young, I'll look for the eggs. If I see a pattern, then I know that, you know what, she's trying. So what I do at that time is I make sure they're in a single box. I put her on a double screen board, then I find a nice big colony to keep them warm over winter. And a lot of times they'll make it, sometimes they won't. That's basically what I do. My other part in the winter time, of course, like a lot of other people have been talking, is feeding. And so I'll break the buckets out in wintertime if I need to, and go that route. That's, it's not too difficult. Now, if I was doing almonds, that's a totally different story. So I would be massively just pounding patties on them, starting now all the way through winter, and just keeping them going. But I'm not doing that. I'm not going to do that. I like singles, and last year there was a chance where I was going to fill some holes in a commercial guy's contracts here, but that kind of fell through, and I had the bees and doubles, and then last year was just a disaster with the weather. And I didn't even graft last year. I didn't rear any queens. I'm in trouble now because I have old queens out there. So I like singles, but last year I had doubles, and I just paid the price. So you know what? I'm just going to stick and run with honey. I make creamed honey, which is nice. I have a creamer. It's really popular because no one knows about it. So you make your own market and make it the way you want it, and everything's good. So yeah.
What's one of your hardest lessons learned, Todd? As because it sounds like knowing you from years ago. A lot of our focus was on bees and nukes and queens, and then at some point you have to be honest with your goals, the environs in which your bees are operating in, and you find, hey, what opportunities do I have with what I'm working with? Because it's not maybe it's not nukes, maybe it's not queens, maybe it is honey, maybe it's creamed honey. What's one of the hard lessons learned along the way, Todd, from you to get to where you were to where you are now, and how does that impact your choices going into the wintertime?
The biggest lesson learned has been said a couple of times, and that's feeding.
Okay.
Because if they don't have enough feed for me here in February, they're dead.
Yeah.
They're pretty much dead, because that's when they're really expanding. So, or that's when they're starting to expand. So they really need that fuel. So yeah, I lost big colonies that 1 week in early February, I peeked into them, and I mean, they were just boiling out of the box. And then 2 weeks later, they're all dead, and I mean, they probably died earlier than that. Well, obviously they did.
Yeah.
But that's been the hardest lesson, and getting over that hurdle, it's been a lot easier. Now, you mentioned queens and nukes. I have a full-time job, so I do my stuff Saturday, Sunday, or when the time changes after work. I would love to do queens. I'd love to do nukes, but right now I don't have the time.
That's smart. A lot of folks, they chase what they want, what they think they want from this, and they end up running themselves and their bees into the ground doing it because they just don't align. Just because you hear that somebody does this or somebody doesn't mean that that is the opus magnus of beekeeping. You need to find what works for you so you can keep that relationship with your bees, enjoy the ride. And like any aspect of farming, there's inputs, there's the maintenance and the labor, and then there's the crop. And if the crop doesn't create an asset that more than makes up for the input and all the time, then you've got a hobby that's costing you money, and that's okay. But time is so precious for all of us with our families and jobs or whatever that it might be. We've got to be smart about what it is that we're doing and making sure that it actually makes sense. And it sounds like, Todd, that you're finding the silver lining in that relationship with the bees, and that honey is something that makes sense, is something that is within your economy of scale to do and to do well.
Correct. Yeah. And I do want to add a point. I don't know if you caught this a couple years ago. You made a comment on a video that I made. I think it was a couple years ago. And it was one of my first ones. And I credited you for getting me into the video portion of this journey. And so you're the
Really?
reason why I've been making videos. Now, lately I haven't been making a whole lot. I'm going to try to change that. But, you know, like I said, I'm busy with my other job. But yeah. So it's all your fault, Greg, that I'm doing all of this, you know. Well, I do it on my phone and I really don't edit. I go with the flow, take it. And
hey, if it's good enough for Ian Steppler, it's good enough for all of us. You know, it's not a lot of us geek out, you know, and that's the fun thing. And that's a conversation for another day. But the art of storytelling, the art of beekeeping, outside of the beekeeping part, but sharing all that, we all do that differently because of what's on the inside, how we're wired, what we want to share, how we want to express that. And that doesn't necessarily mean everyone should. We shouldn't all do it the same. You know, if everybody was a Pablo Picasso, it wouldn't be special. And so what's special is we all do the thing differently, and we all have different filters and lenses that we are seeing bees, how we experience it, and how we share that. That's what I think makes all of this so unique.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Well, cool. Well, talking California, and I'm hearing things, guys, all across the country, and the more we would think everything is so drastically different, the more things change. Maybe the more they actually stay the same. We're hearing a lot of the same things there. But Todd, what is one hot tip that you would pass on to someone getting into beekeeping this year?
Oh man, that's not I didn't even think of you asking that question. The hottest tip is, well, you've heard it before, Greg, is you can never have enough boxes.
Yeah.
You really can't. But if you're just starting, just do what's comfortable for you. At least have 2 hives.
Yeah.
Don't have one because you need to. And have fun. I mean, enjoy it. You know, just be patient and learn. Oh, the biggest thing I could say is this, and I personally learned this. You have to listen to your bees. And what I mean by that is the buzz. If it's a high-pitched, whiny buzz that they're not in a good mood. You know, so maybe you want to get in and out of there fast. If they're calm and they're not running around too much and the pitch of that buzz is low, they're okay. So that actually would be my biggest tip.
Awesome. Well, Todd Prater, Loma Vista Bee Company on the YouTube. Check out his channel. I always enjoy seeing what everyone does, especially in the different parts of the country. I appreciate what you do. Todd, anywhere else, any other links or websites that folks can find out what you're doing?
Yes, Facebook, Instagram, and of course YouTube. All the same name, Loma Vista.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Todd, thanks again, buddy.
All right. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Brian. Thanks, Bruce.
Tell us, buddy.
Guys, we're into overtime. Let's go into recap mode. After hearing all the things, let's go around the horn here. What were the similarities? What was maybe a little bit different? We'll start with Brian because he's not choking on air. Brian, what are some things that you heard out of everybody that's maybe similar or completely different?
Feed. Yeah, feed just because, like a couple people said, when I have my larger colonies, when it gets, and you think your larger colonies, you look at them and you're like, man, these things are set. I don't have to worry about them. But wrong, because here, at least here, if they don't have adequate weight on them come February, March, when your temps are starting to, warm up and the bees are getting out there and active, they're burning through stores like crazy. And just exactly like Todd said, you're going to walk out there one day and everything is fine. And then you're going to go out there another day, not even thinking that one of your better colonies, your colony that has the higher population, has an issue, and you open it up and everything's dead. So it's that feed. And this year, I'll say I'm probably in a day or so here going to be filling up buckets. It'll be the 4th bucket that some of my colonies have had. And I've never done that. 3 was always like, I was like, wow, I can't believe this. But there are some colonies that when I went out, I didn't have enough time to do it the other day, or else I would have done it. But yeah, their 3rd bucket, bone dry empty.
Wow.
So it's like, yeah. This year has just been,
feed's been the name of the game. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Bruce,
so
what did you hear after visiting with everybody, beekeepers across the USA? What was the common denominator, if there was one, that you could be pulled from all that?
I think every single person mentioned making sure they have enough food. Like, I mean, that's just obviously people mentioned mites, they mentioned different configurations, but food was the common denominator from everybody.
Yeah, that's what I heard too, and I think that's you know, I don't say this because I've got everybody's answer, but it seems like long gone are the days where you just need to have a super on for the bees for winter. I think things are some of the weather we're experiencing in so many different parts of the country is surpassing that for lots of different reasons. But what I heard was feed and insurance feed was a big thing.
I will say that it depends on your goals. I think the main thing is be aware of the food situation. If your bees, like Mike Berry in the comments mentioned, his hives are all good and heavy and they're doing well. And so if you're, and that's kind of my principle. That's what I've always done in the past. If they're heavy, I don't feel like I have to feed them all the time, but you got to know what the status is. And personally, I've been worried so much about trying to get my mites under control. I haven't fed all my colonies like I need to. And so the treatment is basically done now. I'm going to follow up this weekend, and then I got to start really focusing on that weight, focusing on the food. I think I've got the mites. I think I've got them knocked back pretty good. So I have a hard time doing all of it at the same time, just with my time restraints. And so now, they looked pretty good a few weeks ago, but I think some of them are starting to get a little bit light, or maybe a lot light. So I got to get on the food aspect of it, and that's going to be kind of my next step, and we're just going to just check them throughout the, every week or two throughout the winter. And just if they need to be fed, I'll feed them. And if not, then if they feel good and heavy, I might leave them alone. But I am going to get some fondant. I know it's warm down here, and you can just about feed liquid feed down here all winter. But the fondant is just such a good product just to get them through those tough times. They don't consume it as fast as liquid, and it just seems to help maintain them through. It may not be as good as feeding them the sugar, or the syrup, on a consistent basis. But man, it's just, I don't know how many colonies of mine it's saved for the last couple of years. It's saved multiple colonies.
It seems like it's a common denominator, no matter where folks are in the country, using a product that has things in there that are outside just the scope for getting them a carbohydrate. There are a lot of products out there, but some of the winter patties and all these things that are out there, they lack in actual nutrition and things that are helping with the gut biome of the bees. As these bees are feeding in the wintertime, where so many folks are finding success with, like the Hive Alive fondant, the thymol, the seaweed, all the nutrients that are in there, it's helping them digest that food. But there is no other product on the market like the fondant, where it's already an inverted sugar. The bees can hit that fondant, they can metabolize it immediately and put it to work. That is such a big deal on these warm, cold days. Other winter patty products, things that are a lot harsher of a sugar bricks, it takes a lot more work for those bees to even begin to break that down and to use it for nutrition. That's where things like this fondant from Hive Alive works so well. It's one of the things where it's folks say, well, it's expensive. You're right. But we use it on every single colony in the wintertime, and it is a mindset is that we can't afford not to. It's not a matter of can we afford it. It's we can't afford not to, because of what we see year after year, and it makes such a big deal. Guys, we could spend an hour and a half going the specific details on what it is that we're doing in our own operations for wintertime. We've already gone into overtime tonight with beekeepers from across the USA. So why don't we do this? Let's check back in with each other here on a future stream team chat to double down on some of the things that we're doing for wintertime, respective to our own operations. That's a big conversation, but I think we heard an awful lot from folks all across the country tonight. As we wrap it up, Brian, what's coming up this next week with Brian at Castle Hives?
Oh man, well, I tell you, so everybody, I'll just start out and say apologies for not having a video in the last like 3 weeks. I had something filmed and the audio came across as I don't know, it sounded like something from another planet. So it was all messed up. I didn't feel like doing any kind of like a voiceover or anything like that, so I scrapped it. Now I did go out the other day and I had the Viroxan, that oxalic acid, and we had that discussion before. It's that extended release oxalic acid. It was 78 degrees yesterday, so I went over, pulled my Viroxan. They were on for right around 40 days. Pulled, and I did some spot washes on a couple colonies. 2 was the highest. I had 1s and 2s. So I'm very comfortable with that. The colonies that are there, I've got 1 that's small that I think, yeah, they'll probably make it through. But, you know, there's 1 that I pretty much look at and I'm like, yeah, if they make it, you know, great. But, you know, other than that, whatever with that one. But the ones that are good, I feel comfortable about them. So, and like I said, I'm going to be going over, throwing some feed on them just because our temps are still, we have in the next 2 weeks, I don't think we're going below like 38. So it's still fine to have that liquid on them. And I figure I might as well give it to them because there's nothing out there.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely nothing. We've already had our first like hard freeze here. So the gardens and everything are just annihilated. So there's nothing. So I'm just keeping that feed on them, making sure they have weight. And there's 1 that is smaller that I feel there's enough weight. Like I lift up the deep because I've got the story and a half configuration on them now. There's 1 that I think I'm going to take the medium off of them just because I don't think they need it. And I'm just going to condense them down into that 1 box. If they need, you know, any weight afterwards, well, I'll just toss it on. But things are looking good, and I'll have a video here soon. So apologies, like I said, for just not having much in the last 3 weeks.
Awesome. Well, look forward to checking that out. You could always do like a you know, Japanese you know, voiceover. Just, you never know. You could hit some new beekeeping global trend, and we could say we knew you back when you did English videos. You just never know.
Exactly.
You never know. Bruce, what's going on in the Alabama area for Bruce's bees this coming week?
Well, I've pretty much covered it. Just gonna go through and check for mites this weekend, see where we're at with everything. I think I'm done treating for right now. I'm gonna try and do a video, talk about the strategy I used. It'll be probably a fairly brief video, just kind of because my last full-length video. Actually, I did talk about the mite problems I was having, and also went over the feeding setup, commercial beekeeping setup, that my little mini one, and then my buddy Tyler's setup. And I think I'm going to maybe try to give you a video out actually this weekend where I just break out the commercial beekeeping setup that he has. And because it's pretty incredible. And people who saw the length of that video may not have watched it. I understand that because it was kind of a long video, but that one clip was like 5 or 6 minutes. And so, so that's what I'm going to do. Just kind of do that. And then, like I say, start just checking weights and trying to get food on them. And I was just mentioning in the comments, I have frame feeders. I have some of your bucket feeders, but I may just put some open feed out for them. That, as DC says, I think it was in here, it's not as efficient as in hive or bucket feeders for per colony, but it's just I've had tremendous success in the past with it. I didn't really do it any last year, hardly if at all, but maybe a tiny bit. But I'm going to probably go back to doing some of that this year. It's just a matter of the time to get all the buckets or frame feeders filled and crack the hives. It's just so much easier to go up, pull up, have your totes out there, fill them up and leave, you know, and I may have to, because I've got to get them fed. I think they're getting light with this drought. You know, they were doing really good. They were pretty heavy, but I think this drought has really set me back a little. I think I'm a little behind, and I need to practice what I preach. Everybody's talking about feeding. I need to get on that. Now the Apple bees down there I've been feeding them almost basically every week now for a couple of months, but the rest of them have kind of been neglected a little bit from the feeding front. So I got to get on that.
There's a lot. I'm with you.
There's so much to do.
So much to do. I know, and it's like we're at the end of this thing nearly, and you're like, okay, well, how much more can I really do? How much of an impact is it going to make? And then you keep telling yourself, if they really need it, and I don't give it to them, I'm going to pay for it in the spring.
Oh, it's pay for it. You know, now if they starve, they could starve at any time. So
rather buy feed now than to have no bees or less bees in the spring. Yeah. It'll cost you one way or the other, won't it?
Oh, yeah.
I want to give a shout out to Mr. Tom at the Small Scale Life podcast and YouTube channel. If you're into small scale gardening, farming, homesteading, and just love podcasts, make sure you check out the Small Scale Life podcast. Tom, thanks for your super chat. $10 super chat for Brian's gang signs, and lots of love to Bruce and Greggy Poo too. Great stream. And a shout out to Bracken Barker at Barker's Bees and Honey for your super chat. Says, thank you 3 and everyone on here for all you have taught me. Hope someday I can help others the way you all have helped me. Bracken, thanks a lot for joining us tonight. And a shout out to Mr. Jason Crook at Bohemia Bees for your super chat. It's thank you for the opportunity to join the stream and share our experiences with the great beekeeping community. Well, that's what it's about.
Before we leave, Greg, I think I've met him before, maybe, but I met today, actually, the last couple of days, I met Toby Reeder, who is sometimes in the comments. He's from Brundage, Alabama, which is up near Troy, not far from, probably somewhere up there near Grayson, but he saw him today at work, and he gave me a bottle of his honey. It's
nice. Awesome.
Reeder Ridge in Brundage, Alabama. And so I'm going to taste it right now. I imagine it tastes a little bit like mine, but I'm not sure. He said his bees were on some cotton and some different things. So
probably tastes better.
Yeah, probably. He said he liked mine, so
everyone's honey tastes better.
It's really good. I mean, it tastes a little different than mine, but it's got that. It's kind of got a strong / sweet flavor to it. It tastes like that summer honey, and it's pretty good stuff. Anyway, I think I'm not sure if he's on here still, but I did see him in the comments earlier a little bit, and so he usually goes back and watches these, I think. So hopefully he sticks around long enough to see that I did talk about Toby. He's a great guy, and met him and his wife today. Just tremendous people.
Yeah, Toby Reeder, we see you out there. We see the comments and all the support. I want to thank you for that too. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, coming up here this week, we've got such a fun thing happening this Thursday. We're attending the 80th annual conservation banquet here for the county. And we were nominated and are awarded Educator of the Year. And so I'm the speaker for the banquet. And it's just so incredible to be a part of a community who's dedicated to education and outreach and get all this information out. It's such a neat thing. Thanks, Brian. Thank you. You guys are awesome. So that's coming up this Thursday. There's so many things on the horizon, so many things I want to talk about. We've been on here forever already tonight. But I want to encourage you, if you are going to the Bee Expo and you're looking for the best wax dip boxes on the market, go to our website, naturesimagefarm.com, click the Bee Expo pricing at the very top, and check out all the pricing on not just boxes, but on tops, bottoms, you name it.
I ordered a skid of those boxes. I'm looking forward to it.
Bruce, I really thank you for that. We're looking forward. We're actually making a special delivery down to Alabama for some folks. So if you're in that neck of the woods and you're looking for some equipment, maybe we can get you on the truck too. But this is something that we didn't just all of a sudden decide we're going to get into wax dipping and run a couple boxes off here or there. We've been doing this for years, semi-loads at a time. There is definitely an art to this. It is not just as easy as a formula. You get this, you do this, and here there is a lot to it. We've put a lot of time, a lot of effort, research into doing this in a certain way. And we're really proud of this. No paint, no rot, no hassle, Endura Hive. These boxes are built to endure. We know you'll love them just as much as we do. If you want to learn more, go to our website, naturesimagefarm.com. We can't thank you guys enough for all of your support. I quickly wanted to mention this is, we're in this time period of beekeeping where it's the wind down, it's the burnout. You try to do your best to slap everything together. Sometimes as we go into these winter months, sometimes what we have isn't the result that we were looking for. And sometimes in any other part of our life, the result isn't what we were looking for. This is a very monumental time in our nation's history. And there are a lot of folks out there that today, this is not the result that they were looking for. And I just wanted to share this, as we've all have been in positions in life where the result, it wasn't what we were looking for. And I want to share this proverb that says, hope deferred maketh the heart sick, but when the desire cometh, it is a tree of life. And that is such an important scripture to me, because there are so many times in our life where we have felt defeated. We have lost joy. We have lost that hope. And that makes your heart sick. You feel that so deep within, you can't even put words to it. If that's where you are right now with whatever in life, I want you to go back and remember that time when that joy and that desire sprung up on the inside like a tree of life, and that filled you and that renewed you and that put you and that gave you hope. What I want to ask you tonight is, what do you put your hope in? And think about that. What are you putting your hope and your stock in life? It's an important question. It's one that's going to require a much deeper and meaningful conversation, but I'll challenge you to spend some time thinking, what is it that you're putting your hope in? A lot of folks have put their hope in this, in that, in a vote, into this. I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt that there's a big difference in putting your hope in things of this world versus putting your hope in God. I'm going to challenge you to think about that and consider that. Until next time, we want to remind you to be the lighthouse and be the change you want to see in this world. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Hi, I'm Greg Burns, founder of Nature's Image Farm and Endura Hive wax-dipped equipment. Hey, as large family beekeepers, we saw a major need to do way better in protecting our investment with our beekeeping equipment from the elements for the long haul. So I coupled our practical beekeeping experience with our wood science background to create the Endura Hive wax dip line of beekeeping equipment. Our unique wax dip process expels water from the wood, replaces and impregnates it with our proprietary blend of microcrystalline wax, offering superior weather protection without the mess or expense of paint. Our equipment is protected from the weather inside and out, preventing box rot, fungal growth, and decomposition. That's a huge savings in both time and money. No more reworking tired, worn out boxes year after year. Our wax-dipped equipment is proudly made in the USA. So protect your investment with Endura Hive wax-dipped equipment. No paint, no rot, no hassle. Endura Hive, built to endure.